Good morning to all the people on Zoom and YouTube. We're going to commence around about 9 o'clock. So I'm just speaking to you as a sound check. All video is working, so hopefully the sound is fine on your side. You're welcome to use the chat room to greet each other, and great seeing you guys. Now, thanks for the message. Appreciate it. So talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much. Just a sound check to those joining on YouTube and Zoom. We will commence shortly. Thank you. Talk to you soon. We're just admitting a lot of colleagues into the meeting, so bear with us. We will start as soon as possible. Many people are joining the meeting now via Zoom, so we'll be with you in a second. Good morning, everybody. Please take up your seats. Let's settle down. Great audience here today. Thank you for your time and joining the Transport Forum. For the record, this is 22nd of February, 2023. I've been looking forward to this event for quite some time. Being hosted by Transnet, Transnet Port Terminals, and Transport National Ports Authority. Thank you for always supporting the Transport Forum and talking to us. We really appreciate that. Also, thank you very much to Standard Bank today for co-hosting this event and making available the facilities. We really appreciate it. Those of you who don't know the culprit yet, my name is Harry van Heestien. I'm the guy that's actually spamming you a lot in your inbox. Thank you very much for allowing me in there. I really appreciate that. Just a little bit housekeeping this morning. The restrooms, when you exit the door this side, you walk straight into a little glass passage. You turn left down and you'll see the restrooms there. It's just about 2 meters from here, just next door. All right, that's where the restrooms are. You're welcome to leave the room at any time and come back in here. We have a very comfortable and relaxed style. All right, so also welcome to all the people on Zoom. You can see already 52 people on Zoom. We're expecting more than 100 people will join us on Zoom. And there's a lot of people on YouTube following as well. So bear with us with all the technology. You know, these events nowadays are like TV broadcasts. You'll see all the cameras. We're using 3 cameras. What you see in the auditorium on the screen is the actual Zoom session. So that's what the Zoom people out there are seeing. So that's creating this collaborative feeling that you can see the Zoom people and what they are seeing out there. That's why there might be a latency between, you know, my lips maybe and the person's lips on the screen, because you're seeing what's happening on Zoom. So there might be a fraction of a second slower than us. So don't worry about it. That's depending on the bandwidth we have at that moment. There might be latency. So don't worry about that. Just bear with us. All right, then this afternoon, we're going to have a terminal visit. The visit will be to Pier 1 and Pier 2. Thank you for Transnet for arranging that for us. Bongi is Bongi India. But okay, in any event, there is obviously logistics involved in terms of ID numbers and so on to have access to the port. We're also restricted in terms of the numbers. The bus can only take 60 people. So there is a list of everybody who's booked for the terminal tour, and all the ID numbers were already received. But when we take a lunch today, please go to the registration desk and see if your name is on the list and make sure your ID number is recorded there, so we can finalize the list for the terminal tour. The bus will be here at 1300 hours to take you guys to the terminals. All right. So, but lunch already is at 12-ish. Yeah, 12 o'clock. All right. So in terms of the presentations today, we, as you've seen, we haven't got a panel discussion as such. We will allow, should there be a burning question after the presentation, we will allow, depending on time, for a question or so from this audience here and the chat room. So people on Zoom, you're welcome to use the chat room to type a question. We're not guaranteeing that we're going to address all the questions because of time, but what we will do is we make sure afterwards that your question will reach the right people to be responded to. All right. The same with YouTube. The YouTube guys can also text messages on YouTube text interface. Right. Also, please remember during the breaks and so on to go to the TPT desk here at the coffee area. They would like your feedback on the event. They say they would like you to pay a courtesy visit to their desk and to kindly give feedback there at the TPT desk. All right, so Jan, if we can have the program. So looking at our program today, we're talking about Transnet port terminals, looking back on the past year and a glimpse into the future. 22nd of February 2023. We're currently busy with the housekeeping, but you can see we're blessed in having Mr. Jabu Ndake, Chief Executive Transnet Port Terminals, is online. He's going to talk to us online just now, doing the TPT overview on Insight. And then we're going to continue with the program, getting some feedback from TPT operations, feedback and future insights. So we'll have Durban terminals, Mr. Earl Peters. We're going to KwaZulu Mabaso, Richard Bay terminals. We're going to take a short break. Then we'll have Mr. Salim Peterson, so online presentation from the Eastern Cape. We're going to have Ndizwa Nhangwa from Western Cape terminals. And then Mr. Johnny Mokaseng, the Port Master Plan. Thank you very much also, Johnny, for supporting this from TNPA. We really appreciate that. Ladies and gents, talking about the Transport Forum. The Transport Forum next month is 16 years old. And It's in existence because of your support. And we really like to thank you for that. Otherwise, obviously, it wouldn't be possible. And the business model of the Transport Forum is to constructive. We do constructive engagements to improve the process of transport in our country. We're not laboring issues. We're aware of challenges we have out there. So we mentioned the challenges and we are aware of that, but we're not laboring those facts. We make sure that the questions and the challenges reach the right people and you get answered. Also, you might have noticed, obviously, that the attendance of these events are all for free, complimentary, and that's what we'd like to keep it in the future as well, to make it available to everybody. You shouldn't be able to, you shouldn't be forced to make use of red tape and organizations to attend our events to get money. That's why we're keeping it for free. But obviously somebody must pay for this, Look at all the technology and people helping us and so on. That's why we've got valued sponsors supporting this initiative, and they're putting down their money to make this possible for many years. Let's quickly give recognition to those organizations. Sorry, I just know somehow skipped a lot of slides. Just bear with me. I don't know this thing that does, but okay, let's try and get back to the right slide quickly. There we go. All right, so the Transport Forum is associated formally with some industry bodies, such as the South African Association of Freight Forwarders, the Road Freight Association, the South African Express Parcel Association, South African Bus Operators Association, African Rail Industry Association, and the Chartered Institute for Logistics and Transport. These organizations are in a formal agreement with the Transport Forum, and many of our events, they actually arrange some of our events. Let's run through them quickly. South African Association of Freight Forwarders, you can see already established in 1921. It's a national association with members throughout the Republic of South Africa. And all these associations, in that space, you're supposed to be a member of that organization, all right? Because they lobby you. Many times people will contact us at the Transport Forum and say, how do I become a member of the Transport Forum? And we will tell them you can't become a member because we don't represent anybody. We don't argue or lobby for you. And that's not a Transport Forum. A Transport Forum is merely a platform of communication and content provision. If you want to be lobbied, or represented by somebody, join the associations. That's where you should go. All right. So SAF is one of them. We've got the South African Express Parcel Association. It's a representative body and voice of the express delivery industry in South Africa. Mr. Gary Marshall and his team. We've got the South African Road Freight Association, Mr. Gavin Kelly and his team. They say without trucks, South Africa stops. And they're doing great work at the RFA. We've got the African Rail Industry Association, Marcelo and Slapo, doing great work also for participation across the board in our supply chain. Lots of good work being done by RIA. We've got the Bus Operators Association, Mr. Basil Govender. As you can see, they represent the South African bus and coach industry. And then we've got formal industry alliances with the Transport Forum, Freight News, Railways Africa, and Engineering News. Obviously, there are more that's involved, but these are in a formal agreement with the Transport Forum. So we look at South Africa's Freight News, and from Zoom, if there's anybody from these organizations, you're welcome to interrupt me online, or in the audience, you want to say a few words quickly, you're welcome to interrupt me. So Freight News, so news and features for import and export decision makers, and subscribe to these magazines. They will keep you posted on everything that's happening in the industry. Much worth your while. Freight News actually previously known as Freight and Trading Weekly, being part of us from the inception of the Transport Forum in 2007. We've got Railways Africa magazine, specialist trade, technical business-to-business online publication, covering all aspects of the rail sector, Philippa Dean and team. And we've got Engineering News. And Engineering News is part of the Creamer Media Group. And they usually send us a video of the weekly wrap. So let's have a look at the video.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, published on Friday, 24 February 2023. In this week's cover article, Engineering News and Mining Weekly Senior Deputy Editor Natasha Oerdendahl writes that telecommunications companies are feeling the pressure of sustained levels of load shedding. As South Africa's persistent load shedding shows no signs of abating, the country's telecommunications companies are having to ramp up mitigation measures in an effort to keep consumers connected. The Engineering News features focus on industrial and commercial lighting, where solar fittings illuminate load shedding shadows, and rubber products and recycling, where a partnership aims to benefit the rubber recycling industry. The Mining Weekly features focus on South Africa's mining outlook, where the foundation is being laid for a renewed interest in exploration. And mining in Namibia, where uranium demand is growing on the back of the Paris Agreement. This week's business leader is Pule Motibe, the incoming CEO of Ensika Consulting. And as this week's cartoon shows, it's far from clear what good will come from the decision to declare South Africa's long-running electricity crisis a state of disaster. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly. Be sure to subscribe to the magazine that offers you in-depth news about developments in the real economy by emailing subscriptions at engineeringnews.co.za. Happy reading and see you next time.
Thank you, Engineering News. Right, ladies and gents, those are our formal associates and alliances of the Transport Forum. I would like to give recognition to our sponsors. Kathy, I don't know if you want to say a few words about Standard Bank quickly. If you can come here so that people can hear and see you, please. Please come here, otherwise I can't hear you online. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy's been a supporter of this Transport Forum for many years. We just spoken about it when we just started. She visited me one day, and yeah, maybe you can tell me about that.
Indeed. So welcome today. Thank you. This is a first for us. So we're so pleased to be supporting the TPT team, the bigger Transnet, because we know that we need to move everything, food, commodities, etc. And hopefully it'll be done by rail. If not, the trucking industry is there to help to make sure that whilst we're managing our rail transition and the turnaround strategy, that product still moves. So I think as far as Harry's talking about, many years ago, 16 years ago, we had a chat about the Transport Forum, and Harry was creating this platform business that's long before platform businesses were actually known, before they were a thing. And essentially, I said, well, Harry, I know people, a few, and from then we grew it. So we connected people. So it was from UJ to the transport industry, etc. And then my passion obviously is promoting best practice. Tomorrow we have a workshop. Please do feel free to come and join us. And that is on logical logistics. And that is for best practice, that's self-regulation. So in the industry, we also have a standard, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But I think the biggest standard bank, you know, we're moving towards net zero by 2050. Kenny Fiedler, one of our executives, mentioned that. So our objective is we want to partner. So Harry talks about us being a sponsor. Our version is we're a partner. We want to partner industry to make sure that we can also help grow, and we can actually partner with companies to also be sustainable. And we're doing a lot of different things. Do you know that we provide training to traffic officials in conjunction with the Brake and Tire Fleet Watch? So in other words, we know what slack adjusters are, we know what self-sensing valves are, we also know what a truck should look like, and a trailer. So that's important. No other bank can say that. It's important because you need to make sure you do the right thing the right way, consistently so. So thank you, Harry, for the opportunity. We're looking forward to another wonderful year of being a gold sponsor to you, and then many more of these events. And I think it's going to be very, very exciting. And we're looking forward to the TPT team sharing their strategy. I think it's very exciting. By the way, 2 weeks ago, I took a flight out with one of our customers to Richards Bay to the port. So it's interesting, lots happening there. So that was quite exciting. And then last year I was at Gqeberha. I went to the port there and looked at what's happening around the manganese export. So that's also, it's exciting. There's lots happening. Can we do it better? Of course we can. And the team that's here have a drive and a vision to do so. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you so much, Standard Bank. So great having a part of the team and as a partner, as you say, for many years, and for co-hosting today. We really appreciate that. Right, ladies and gents, we've got C-Track, the Transport Forum sole platinum sponsor in this stage. Krista, I don't know if you want to say a few words quickly.
Morning, everyone. I'm Krista Claessens from C-Track, South Africa. Thanks, Harry. We're really proud to be a sponsor of the Transport Forum. Thanks, Standard Bank, for making this happen. And TPT, we appreciate being here. And we offer transport solutions, telematics solutions to the transport industry and our alliance partners. So I will share my information, my contact details with Harry for later on and share it with you guys and also the online guys. I have a short video to show you on our recently launched Crystal platform. It's a phased-in process, and the video is self-explanatory. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thanks, Harry.
Maximizing fleet uptime, whether big or small, is a daunting and time-consuming task. Introducing Crystal, the all-new, innovative, and all-encompassing data platform from C-Track, saves you time and money, helping you to streamline your vehicle fleet and asset control. C-Track Crystal, configurable by you to your needs, means no more time-consuming and unnecessary dashboards and reports. Only clear and precise data in real time, in the cloud, and accessible from anywhere in the world on any device. Simplify your driver management, task deployment, and communication through proactive driver behavior monitoring to ensure safe driving, less collisions, and in turn reduced insurance costs and third-party claims. With the Crystal app, the power is in your hands. C-Track Crystal, your tool for a more productive fleet, more proactive decision-making, and ultimately, a better return on your fleet and asset investment. So whether you're on the beach in Bali, the sand dunes of the Sahara, or sunny South Africa, your fleet will always be safe, productive, and always visible.
Thank you so much, C-Track. You know, C-Track's been part of the Transport Forum since inception. From actually before 2007, we're still building the solution. C-Track was already involved. Right, the same scenario with University of Johannesburg, Department of Transport and Supply Chain Management, been involved with the Transport Forum since inception. Prof. Jackie Walters, Prof. Nolene Pisa and them. And we really appreciate their kind gold sponsorship and mentorship in this platform. Thank you, UJ. Global Trade Solution, you can see it's consultancy and strategy, software solutions, specialized services. So they say they're transforming the global supply chain, imports, exports, blockchain technology, all this high-tech solutions that you need for imports and exports. They're the people to talk to. And obviously all these organizations, you've got the links on the Transport Forum website. Pegasus, all right, in South Africa, we leverage our sector-leading expertise and experience to craft and implement mobility solutions which work and have substantial impact. You can see cities, climate, energy, resilience, transport, waste, and water, consultancy group of note. Thank you, Pegasus, for your gold sponsorship. Unitron Supply Chain Solutions. Remember, anybody is welcome to interrupt me online as well if you want to say a few words. Right, Unitrans, you can see they're talking about innovation, expertise delivered. So it's a leading provider of integrated transportation, warehousing, and supply chain-based services to customers with a variety of needs, offering bespoke value propositions in each segment. Thank you very much, Unitrans. We've got Bid Air Cargo. They're also going to host one of our air freight sessions later this year. So they fulfill the needs of the express cargo industry for daytime and overnight cargo capacity across comprehensive Southern and East Africa footprint. Great Bid Air Cargo for your gold sponsorship. Very interesting organization, Ticket Pro. You might have heard from them. Huge platform for your convenient online bookings tool for your corporate functions and so on. You can see they're saying no hidden fees, just good business with straightforward, fair pricing, integrated solution for all your online bookings. Still the same group. They've got Ticket Pro Smart Tap. You can see it's a system, includes key features like comprehensive route management, flexible passenger payment methods, flexible route and fare product setup, shift and dispatch management, cashier system inspection tools, and comprehensive management information system reports. So great, Ticket Pro. Thank you for your gold sponsorship. JC Auditors, I don't know if Oliver is online. You want to say a few words, perhaps? Okay, Oliver is joining us in tomorrow's workshop. As you can see, certification, compliance, and one solution. Think about it, the lives we're living today, you know, self-regulation and compliance is extremely important. And these guys are people that can help you to be compliant on different levels. So thank you, JC Auditors, for your support. Zutari, previously known as Oricon, engineering consultants of note. You can see they're talking about impact engineered. Thank you, Zutari. Also about 8 years already, a gold sponsor of the Transport Forum, playing a major role in our supply chain in South Africa. If you move again to more public transport focus, Cuba, they're transforming ticketing, gold sponsorship from them. They're hosting 2 events this year with big organizations, but I'll leave it to them that they can announce it. You can see their ticketing solutions have been successfully implemented in over 100 cities and regions worldwide, dealing with millions of daily transactions. So that's a company also of note. And then EasyClear, software solutions for customs clearing, freight forwarding, and logistics providers, covering air, sea, road, and rail. Thank you, Michael Henning, and you guys for your gold sponsorship. We really appreciate that. Ladies and gents, good news is at the end of today's session, just before lunch, we will have lucky draws. You might be a winner of a lucky draw item. You can see here at the front, there's a electric wok to a value of almost 700 rands, which you can win. And there's also a very nice laptop bag from C-Track that you can win. So there will be 2 prizes that you might be the lucky winner of that. So we'll send around the bowl that you can put in your business cards later on, and you might be the lucky winner of the draw. So that's great. So let's give a hand to all these alliances and sponsors for Transport Forum. We really appreciate their support in making the Transport Forum possible. Just want to give you, Olga, where's Olga? Olga, can you come to the front quickly? Quickly tell them about the business directory. I know this is unannounced, but I know you're very capable.
Thank you, Harry. Morning, everybody. I'm Olga Mashilo from Buleng-Buntle Consultant. Transport Forum has outsourced the business directory listing into Buleng-Buntle Consultants. With the business directory, what happens, we will list your company for 450 per annum, so that you'll be able to get leads and other partnership that might be required from our database. We've got about per month, about 7,000 people who tap into search for opportunities and also for the partnerships. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Olga. This business directory is very nice categorized. You can see it on the screen. Different categories and easy access to different categories. It's like the Transport Forum's old yellow pages. And it's one of our BEE initiatives, been completely outsourced to Olga's company. And even they are invoicing you directly for the listing, 450 rands per year. That's not money. And the company is having good access to this and good exposure. After this event, in the next day or 2, you'll receive an email from my inbox requesting some feedback on this event. And there will also be an option that you can indicate whether you want your company to be listed, and Olga will get into contact with you. All right. So great stuff. Right, so almost done. The Transport Forum's website, you might ask where I'm going to get all the presentations presented. It's on that website, transportsic.com. You don't even need to type in a www, just type in transportsic.com. It will open up the website, and actually this website contains all the presentations presented at the Transport Forum over almost 16 years. So there's there's more than 900 presentations that you can go and search for free. It's one of the most powerful knowledge bases. I don't know how far, I want to say in Africa, but we're receiving a lots of compliments internationally for this knowledge base, because it's simple but very powerful. So what you do is when you're at the Transport Forum's website, you'll see to the left of your screen, you log in. That's our way of obtaining your information to keep you spammed. All right, that's the deal. You see, you get information, we talk to you. So thank you for that deal. But also by signing up with the Transport Forum complimentary, creating your account, you can have access to many features on the forum. And so once you've logged in on the Transport Forum's website, then you can go to events and you select downloads. And once you've selected downloads, you will see a little simple search engine. You can see you can go to search for documents. So there it's search for documents. You can type in a title like logistics. And when you hit search, it will search through all those presentations and bring up anything with the title containing logistics. Or you type in handsome and will search through all the presentations and bring up Harry's presentations that he, Van Huisteen, all right? That one was for the ladies, but in any event, or you can go to category. And when you select category, you can type in you can select the day of the event's date. So for example, you can select today's date and it will hit search and it will bring up today's presentations. And by tomorrow afternoon, noonish, all the presentation of the day should be there. Actually should be up there tonight already, that you can download for free. All right. Good. So exciting stuff. It brings us to back to our program for today. We're looking back on the past year and a glimpse into the future. And I would like to introduce you to the Chief Executive of Transnet Port Terminals, Mr. Jabo Ndaki. He is online. Jabo, we haven't checked your sound yet, so hopefully everything is going to work. If not, we'll fix it quickly. And he's going to talk about TPT overview and insights. So first, Jabo, we can check if your sound is working. And then we're going to play a video that they provided the transformer first. And then Jabo will talk and I will then show his slides on his behalf. I think that's how we're going to do it. All right. So Jan, if you can give me the number 3.
Yeah, Harry, I don't know if you can hear me, but
yes, Jabo, we can hear you.
No, thank
Jan,
you. I'm
on.
I'm not sure if I can go ahead. I believe that the TPT team will.
Yeah, but just a moment for us. Let me set you up. We'll be with you in a second.
Okay, thank you.
Jabo, we can see and hear you. We're just going to load your presentation. Jabo, can we quickly play the Transnet video for the people and then you can commence with your presentation?
No, thank you.
Okay, Jan, you can give me 3. Is it on 3? Sorry, just bear with us. I'll try and fix this now.
Transnet Port Terminals has been an unyielding force driving South Africa's economy forward for more than 180 years. 24 hours per day, from the crack of dawn throughout the heat of the day and the cool of the night. Our dedicated team of men and women works tirelessly to load and offload every type of cargo imaginable, whether it is minerals from the bulk of the earth, your precious containerized cargo, or the delicate handling of automobiles. Our team of dedicated professionals knows that every shipment we handle has the potential to make a positive impact on someone's life. And that's why we carry the responsibility with pride. Through the power of teamwork and commitment to excellence, Transnet Port Terminals has become an indispensable partner in building a brighter future for us all.
Great video by Transnet. Thank you very much. Okay, Jabu, we can see your presentations. You're welcome to prompt me when you want me to forward to the next slide, so you can continue.
No, thank you, Harry. If you can go to the next slide. But first of all, apologies, colleagues, for joining you online. I had every intent of being present. We ring-fenced the day, but as most of you will appreciate, especially with the SOE environment, is we are required to attend some important engagements on a short notice. But I still, I'm grateful that I am able to join you and be able to present on behalf of TPT what we are doing, our business, the burning platforms and the fountains of hope, as well as our strategic approach. If we can move on to this next slide. The TPT, we are based in 4 regions. KZN, we have operations in Richards Bay and Durban, and then in East London, that will be, in Eastern Cape, it will be East London and PE, including Nova, as well as Western Cape, which will be Cape Town and Saldanha. All these terminals, in total is 16 of them, are handling different cargoes. And I don't think that most of you will be needing an introduction to TPT, but it's just an overview. If we move on to the next one. Our purpose as TPT is to, first of all, I think, let me start with our vision. Our vision is to be a globally recognized terminal operator of choice. I think that speaks for itself, but we want, when you mention the name TPT, it can be a name that is recognized as a preeminent terminal operator. It takes a lot of work to get there, and we are committed to doing that work. But our purpose is to deliver an efficient, safe, reliable, and cost-effective cargo handling service to South Africa. We do that on behalf of our customers, and if we do that, we are able to create value. We are indicating the key value drivers, which will be financial efficiency and growth, and the areas that we operate in. STIP is mainly in autos, containers, bulk, and break bulk. If we move on to the next one. Sorry, I think you skipped one slide. How are we doing? The one that is looking at the volumes. Thank you. This is how TPT is doing at the present moment. We are, the cargoes that we are handling, automotives, we are potentially looking at finishing this year with a record volumes of 827,000 units that will be handling across all our auto terminals. Durban is set to achieve a new record, having achieved a new record in the previous year. So we are trending quite well there, and the team is quite motivated to do that well. Containers is an area that we are challenged. It is an area that we were impacted by the floods, and later on by the strike as well, that impacted the volumes that we are moving. But I must say that despite those setbacks, we're able to recover and try and get some ground. We'll still be maintaining, just above 4 million TEUs that we will be handling. It's a space that we have big ambitions. As you can see, the highest volumes that we have handled is 4.664 million TEUs. It's not lost on us. It is this team's ambition and objective to achieve or even exceed that record. And we do believe that with the cooperation and the engagement that we've got with our stakeholders and the processes that we are putting in place, we are placing ourselves in a position that we can be able to move in that direction again. More importantly is in that space, as challenged as we are seeing, some of the efficiencies that we have lost, regaining them. Important for us, we've heard of vessels, for example, that are headed for South Africa, trying bypassing the South African ports. Our first priority is to ensure that we meet the vessels that are coming to our ports, meet their windows. So they meet their contractual times. We bet them on arrival. We give them the efficiencies that they require. They are able to depart on time. We operate a complementary port system. So a vessel that is calling Durban might be required to call either PE or Cape Town. And it's important that we ensure that those vessels are able to make those windows. So there's a lot of collaboration and working together between the ports to ensure that that happens. And we are working closely with the shipping lines to ensure that we achieve that. We've set ourselves an internal target that we want to exceed a minimum of, we want to meet a minimum of 80% in terms of the vessels meeting their set slots that they are allocated within our ports. We are starting to see some of the terminals achieving and exceeding 80%. In the last few weeks, the Durban terminals is doing us proud, doing almost 100% of that. So it's a step in the right direction. We are not where we need to be, but we are moving in the right direction. Pier 1 is again set to achieve a new record this year. We are confident that in the remaining few weeks, we will be able to achieve that. The break bulk space is a space, again, that is growing and we're doing quite well. It's very competitive. It's not a space that TPT enjoys a monopoly. We are fighting very hard to be relevant and to be competitive and do as well as we are doing in that space. The bulk space, again, is one area where we are challenged because it's largely integrated with the rail. So we need to be able to resolve the challenges that we have. Our colleagues on the TFR side have put a lot of initiatives in place to ensure that we get the rail up and running again, so that the bulk sector, as most of you will be aware, our iron ore terminal in Saldanha is dependent on rail. Our manganese terminals in PE is dependent on rail. We are dependent on rail in Richards Bay. But in the absence of rail, we have used a combination of the trucks, try to perfect our skill and art of basically handling the trucks and trying to turn them around as quickly as possible. On that space, as most of you will be seeing in Richards Bay, we are on target to quadruple, to triple the previous record in terms of the coal that we are exporting to our TPT terminals there, which, obviously, one would have preferred that the coal is coming through the rail and it's exported in large numbers through the main coal export terminal in the country. But in the absence of that, we need to be able to adjust and ensure that we are able to service the industry as best as possible with the limited resources that we have. And I think we do try our best here. You will hear a lot of that from the ME in Richards Bay, KwaZulu-Natal, and from the other MEs in different areas as well. One sector that or commodity that we do not talk about as much as we should be, which I take a lot of pride in the fact that we have resuscitated the Durban Agri terminal and the East London Agri terminal as well. The Durban Agri is on target to achieve the second highest record in maize exports this year. It's things that you will not see more often, but we are aware of that. We are very proud because we are doing that with a plant that is quite challenged, and also with the limited resources that we have. That will then allow us to be able to reinvest in that. If we can move on to the next slide, the burning platforms for us. Equipment is number one. We need to resolve for that. There are a lot of initiatives that we are putting in place to ensure that we improve the maintenance and the quality of maintenance on our equipment. Most of you will be aware that we've been talking about partnering with the OEMs and putting a long-term OEM strategy. That RFP is out. It will be closing at the end of March. The intention of that is that, number one, we want to standardize on the equipment that we've got across the ports. Number two, we want to be able to enter into a long-term partnership with the major OEMs of the equipment that we've got in the ports, so that we can be able to place them in a position that they can keep a consignment stock. We can reduce the times that, delays when we have breakdowns. But we can also improve the quality of the maintenance that we are doing, because we need to ensure that we've got good quality components that we're using to do our maintenance, but they are also available at the time that we need to be able to do the maintenance. Like I've indicated that we are looking at improving the processes that we are utilizing. So part of that is then looking at our SCM processes to ensure that we streamline them, we get into a long-term contracts, and also it's able to support the business. We've got a very dynamic business. The expectation from the industry is that we are able to service them as well as they can be serviced by any private sector terminal operator. But we know that we are sometimes hamstrung by our own SCM processes, which you need to comply with the PFMA. Now we are putting our best processes and procedures in place that ensure that we comply with those measures, but at the same time, we provide business with the support that anybody else can be able to do that. Now, there are a number of these initiatives that you are undertaking to include getting new equipment in the terminals so that we can be able to support the terminals. There is a lot that the capital projects team is doing to ensure that we try and close the gap in terms of sourcing new equipment that we have been lagging behind. As these things unfold, we will be advising and updating the industry. But what is also important is that while we await for a new equipment to be made available, we need to keep the current equipment that we've got in the terminals operating. The customers must not feel the pressure of us being inefficient because we are saying that we've got old equipment. That is our problem. We need to advance, put our strategies that will ensure that the old equipment that we've got in operation is operating. To that, we are quite committed. Like it has been indicated, the slides will be made available. You will be able to go through them. But to talk to some of the major initiatives, most of you will be aware that the PSP with regard to Pier 2 as well as NCT it has been out. The RFP is in the market. It will be closing sometime in the coming future, and that will follow its own processes. And we are doing all of those things again to ensure that we enhance our position to give the best operations to the stakeholders and the customers. If we move on to the next slide, which talks basically to then our strategic approach, is number one is we want to focus to what we are good at. We ensure that we do that quite well. Where we need help, we reach out and ensure that we get the help and we seek the help and engage the parties that can assist us with that help. We collaborate with our partners. And we've seen the effect of the collaboration with the industry. We've got stakeholders that are more willing to engage with the TPT. If we do all those things and we do them well, that will be to the best benefit of the South African economy. The whole economy does well. Our strategic focus areas as TPT, number one is financial stability. We need to ensure that we have a financially viable OD, which is a TPT. While we do that, we also want to ensure that we fulfill our promise to the customers. We give them the service that they require. We are not where the customers will expect us to be, but we strive to do that. And again, when we talk about the customers, and I'm happy that I've got a lot of the customers present and stakeholders as well. The port or the terminal is where everything converges. You've got the shipping lines, you've got the trucks, you've got the agents, you've got everyone wanting to be serviced. We need to balance and ensure that what we do and everything that we are putting in place will ensure that we provide the best service that can be provided to all the customers and stakeholders. So we cannot, for example, be jeopardizing our shipping operations at the expense of prioritizing, the trucks, or the same as you cannot be prioritizing the trucks at the expense of then jeopardizing the shipping lines. That is why we engage. As TPT, we engage with the customers, we communicate, we share the ideas that we have, we allow them to be critical, and we then make the necessary modifications so that we can come to the best solution. And the best solution might not mean that everyone is happy, but it will mean that it will take us a step forward in terms of improving our operations. It will take us a step forward in terms of making our operations a little bit more efficient. Whether it's how we then look at utilizing the stack in the container terminals or in other terminals, how we ensure that we engage with the trucks and the haulers and the shipping lines and those rules that we put in place so that no one feels jeopardized. And we need to be consistent in applying those rules. Everything that we do as TPT, we can be able to defend that this is in the best interest of everyone and the industry and every stakeholder that is part of a TPT. When we do those things and we do that well, then it improves our efficiencies, it improves our operations planning and our business processes as well. And our maintenance regime is also improved because we can then start having a planned maintenance within our terminals. You can start planning ahead and ensure that we start trending towards, the reliability-centered maintenance, where you do not react to fires, you put out fires in terms of the equipment that you've got and you're deploying in the terminals. That is not going to happen by TPT doing the work on its own. Yes, 80% of that might be because of us, but we also need to be, coordinating with our stakeholders to ensure that we can be able to get there. When we do those things and we do them well, then our business will continue to grow, and our business can only grow if the business of our stakeholders are growing. We need that alignment and the coordination and the cooperation. If we move to I think it's the last slide. Again, the strategy execution. Again, for us, I cannot overemphasize the fact. I'm not sure what is showing there, but I cannot overemphasize the fact that we need, just the slide before that, we need a financially sustainable or a TPT to continue operating and continue reinvesting in its operations so that we can continue enjoying the growth that we are seeing, supporting the industry and being able to be a key stakeholder in the South African economy. My colleagues will be able to talk to some of the specifics that we will be dealing with and how we are handling those items in the different terminals. But I think I'd like to end here, and I'm really grateful for the cooperation that we have seen from the industry. We've had major challenges. The only reason that we're able to come out strongly from the challenges that we've had, be it the floods, be it the strike, even when we had the hacking as well as the unrest in the previous years, was because we're able to work together with the industry. Thank you, and I would like to end here, Harry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jabu, for a well-prepared presentation. Really appreciate that. Jabu, we can still see you in the auditorium. Will you kindly take a question or two? All right, so is there any question in the auditorium? Christensen, I will be with you in a second. Right, rules of the questions, kindly, keep it short, one question, and use the mic so that everybody can hear you.
Good morning, Mr. Ndaki. I wonder if you could please tell me, you showed a terminal at Springfontein in the Free State. Please, could you tell me what you're doing there?
No, yeah, no, thank you. I think I'll ask some of my colleagues to, it's one of the previous slides that we had. Yeah. Well, I'll ask some of my colleagues to help me with those. But what we are showing is some of the internal, what do you call it, inland terminals that we are operating, where we've got Pendoring, Newcastle, Springfontein, and Lohatra as well. I think, right, if I can ask Lufuno to help me.
Good morning, all. Timothy Carter, Business Development. Colleagues, these are inland terminals. So what we do is we assist in the loading of manganese, iron ores, etc., so they can be transported through to the ports. So I know that Lohatra, and then I think Springfontein is part of our expanded plan. We don't currently operate at Springfontein, but I know that Lohatra and the others that are disclosed on that slide are key parts of our inland strategy. Thank you.
Timothy, there is a question.
Hi, Mr. Ndaka. My name is Linton van Heerden, Lenovo Consulting. I'd just like to find out, how would the Caterham dry ports assist Transnet in the expansion and the activities that's going on at the moment?
No, thank you. So Caterham is part of those that we regard as back of port operations. It's a integral part of the Durban infrastructure, and I think when L does his presentation for Durban terminals, I'd like him to then start touching on that specifically on how we are working together. It's one of those where we are engaging TFR as well to see how we can improve the connectivity between those inland, back of port operations and the Durban port operations of our terminals. So I'm not going to be able to give you a specific answer, but it is part of the back of port operations that we are exploring and expanding in the utilization. There are a number of those, especially in the auto sector, as I've indicated, that Durban is likely to exceed its volumes. Part of the enablers is being able to utilize, the back of port facilities when we evacuate cars to be able to create more space within the terminal itself. So it's an integrated and expanded part of our strategy and operations for Durban Port. But I'll ask, L is in the meeting, and that he should be able to expand on that as well.
Thank you, Jabo. Well received. Any more comments? Seem to me everybody's happy. We don't see anything from the chat room. We don't see anything from YouTube. So I think we can commence. Just a moment. I'll be with you in a second.
Okay, no, thank you.
So let's give Jabo a big hand. Thank you, Jabo. Thank you. Okay, Jan, can we have the program? There we go. Ladies and gents, let's get some feedback from TPT operations and a look into the future. Our next presenter then will be Mr. Earl Peters. He's the Managing Executive of Durban Terminals. Thank you very much, Earl. There we go. Almost there. Either page down or there. Just want to get it on. Get it on.
So thank you. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Earl Peters, the Managing Executive for Durban Terminals. Essentially General Manager to oversee the 6 terminals in the Port of Durban, and that's on the operation side. This particular session, we always see it as an opportunity for further dialogue. It's also an opportunity for further engagement, an opportunity to also update what it is that we as Transnet Port Terminals are doing. Also to hear from industry, supply chain partners, what are points of interest? What is it that are areas you would like to share with us? What is it that keeps you awake at night? And what it is that we should also be focusing on as we collaborate and work with you. So with that being said, I would like to move across to the first slide. Essentially, what will be covered is going to be a status overview just in terms of the terminals itself. I'm going to give you a broad overview, and that's very quickly in terms of the 6 terminals that I oversee within the Port of Durban. It will give a status update of what it is that we've indicated to industry last year during the same platform, what it is that we're working on, what are those initiatives, what have we closed out, and what requires further improvement or further efforts in order to achieve that. And then what exactly is it that we are focusing on the next 12 to 24 months in order to stimulate and support economic growth through the various nodes. And that's the different regions. So my colleagues, the other MEs will obviously share it for the different terminals. So in the Port of Durban, we have Durban Container Terminal, which is commonly known as Pier 2. So Pier 2 is the largest container terminal in South Africa and within our coastal network of ports. We handle 1.9 million TEUs. That's just in terms of to assist, it's half of the containers that is handled throughout the country. We have a terminal next to that, which is called Durban Container Terminal Pier 1. So that takes our handling capacity up to 3 million TEUs. Essentially, that is another 770,000 TEUs that is handled at that facility. There are two different type of facilities. The one is supported by straddle carrier operation in terms of moving containers between a vessel and a stack. And obviously at the Pier 1 container terminal, we use what we call rubber-tied gantries, which gives us greater density as the footprint at the Pier 1 container terminal is smaller than what the larger Pier 2 container terminal is. With regards to the Pier 2 container terminal, we also handle, I think, just as a point of interest, so that we also understand what happens in the port as well. Most of the goods that comes through the port of Durban, and for the economy, I think in general, if you know, for anyone that's been in logistics, 95% of goods comes through our ports. And obviously that is where the hub is formed. So most of the goods coming through there are fast moving goods. So it's import materials that is coming for manufacturing, it is for medication, it is it's automotive components that feeds into the production of units that is produced upland into the country, particularly for our larger OEMs. Many of the vehicles we drive, many of what we export, those components come through the port of Durban. And with diversification, as our C's indicated, it is a complementary port system. And what we do in order to support the automotive industry is that we do use different ports to bring different components in. And that is really as a risk mitigation measure to ensure that we have supply chain continuity and minimize disruptions in the supply chain. You know, many of these OEMs, they produce vehicles in 90 minutes. So one can understand the importance of ensuring that there's reliability of supply of components to these production lines. So when we have a situation where we get a red flag of saying as there's a container on a vessel, which we'll call a urgent container or hot box, is commonly known in industry, we do everything we can in collaboration with the industry, with the shipping lines, with the OEMs, identifying the box, getting it off a ship, and then obviously getting it to the plant to avoid a production stop. We can't afford that. Remember, we are supplying also to the economy as well and to other global markets as well for exports. Just a little bit about what happens in terms of a port, just understanding how it operates. So primarily we service goods on the land side. We don't work on ships. We're the intermediary between handling the cargo that arrives on a ship or goods that is brought into the terminal and that we load onto vessels. So understanding a bit of the port itself, vessels arrive at the anchorage position when they arrive in the port. TMPA then, which is the Port Authority, then supplies a pilotage service in order to bring this vessel in to be moored alongside. Once a vessel is all alongside, we receive instructions as to what we do with the goods that's on that vessel. And obviously that particular process starts significantly earlier than that, as early as 21 days prior to that, before goods actually come in, so that we understand how it is that we need to manage goods that is handled there. So the moment the vessel is ready for operations, we do our utmost in terms of ensuring that we work this in an efficient manner. We've got to combat elements like weather. Weather has really become a phenomenon that we have to, sorry for the pun, but weather the storm. Wind unfortunately stops our operation because our equipment cuts off at certain speeds, and it's more for safety reasons to ensure that our operators remain safe. Once a vessel is completed in terms of whether we've discharged a vessel, which meaning taking cargo off a vessel or loading cargo onto a vessel, the vessel is then prepared for sailing and it departs the terminal as then goes out to anchorage. Once the pilot is on board, we depart the vessel, it crosses the breakwater, and that is the end of the handling of a vessel in the port. So that's the port turnaround time, essentially, you know, if you do look at those type of KPIs. A lot of our focus is on what happens to the right-hand side of that particular slide, which then shows, you know, the equipment that we have in place, which is terminal infrastructure. So in most of our terminals, we have cranes that we deploy onto vessels in order to take cargo on and off vessels to load it. We have yards that we store this cargo and for safekeeping and for storage. And then obviously we have our gates in terms of managing the ingress and dispatching of cargo into the terminals. These are all important aspects in the terminal, and we can't do it alone. We do collaborate extensively with different associations, with different customers, to ensure that there's an efficient process and to keep it. Remember, what we have also now found is that Supply chains has become much more responsive. Supply chains become much more complex. How we used to handle it in the past, one could say there was sufficient capacity, so we had enough yard space. What we now find is that we have to do with what we have, that we currently have installed. Greater returns, but we've also got to ensure that we support economic growth. Whilst it is that we might have aged fleet, aged equipment, we've got to ensure that we have the right skills in the terminals. So we're always keeping ahead of the curve in terms of the employment of particular operators in order to see that we enhance the skills coming in. Part and parcel, just completing the picture for Durban terminals. We also have the largest automotive terminal in Durban. So we handle in the region of 550,000 fully built units. And this is a combination of imports and exports that comes through this particular terminal. Now, this is a combination of particular OEMs that is exporting out of the country. And we also have a large contingent. And what we are seeing is there's a significant swing coming towards us in the sense of imports coming into the country. Particularly from Asia, we can see that it's really surged. And we've seen in the region of 200% to 300% increase now, in particular of smaller vehicles coming into the country. What it does demonstrate is there's health and there's good economic health in the country. As we're also seeing is that of many of the consumers are starting to drive vehicles, but many of them are starting to choose the smaller vehicles coming in. And that is what we've got to tend to keep abreast of. I'll speak a bit more in terms of what we've done on the operation side in terms of efficiencies, because during the next 5 years, we are not going to see an increase in terms of what we currently have in terms of a footprint and infrastructure. So we'll have to largely also we'll optimize processes. We'll have to look at dwell days. We'll have to work with OEMs in terms of how do we bring units in and out of the terminal as well. Road transport is one method. However, what we are seeing is that we've got a leverage of now is rail support. So our sister company TFR, so there's significant plans around that in order to reduce the dwell days. Just in terms of the back of your mind, what does it mean? On average, we can load or take 8 vehicles off a carrier, which is called a car carrier. However, on a train, which is a block train, was what we call, we can move 113 units. So one can understand the importance of having that shift from road to rail. There's also not enough. And obviously, we also want to support the reduction in the carbon footprint. I think it's important for everyone. Now, just in terms of a status update for Durban terminals, we focused on 5 key pillars. And this is what we've shared during last year's session as to what those initiatives, what are those focus areas going to be in terms of elements. It by and large focused around people, it focused on other, which I'll share now. Also incentive models for our employees in order to keep our employees engaged, keep them motivated, but also to demonstrate recognition for the efforts. Equipment, specific, very large focus area for us. And then also how it is that we leverage of our planning systems. And this is through operating systems that we have in the terminal. I think I just want to take some of them that we want to cover. So we've ramped up in terms of resourcing in the terminals so that we can man maximum and deploy maximum resources on vessels. The other very important one that was extensively engaged on, consulted with various stakeholders in industry, particularly on the trucking side, is that we've implemented the truck appointment system. And that is a lot of where we really had to work, because what we found that it's a very complex industry and we needed to work with them. It was simple to pass certain rules and principles. What we've found is that you couldn't just implement something without taking recognition of how supply chains are working or how customers that they service work as well. We had to work together on that particular. I would like to say is that it has been successful in that sense that we've implemented that, and it's an iterative process, and we are still working on different things, how to optimize it and make it more efficient. Just equipment, as our C's indicated, we have now issued to market a long-term OEM strategy in terms of equipment so that we know what we need to standardize on. It's for better stock holding. It's also for maintenance of our equipment and understanding the type of equipment, but to bring best technology into the port system. We've done a lot of work with our operating system, particularly in the container terminals, which we call NAVIS. This has allowed us to be more efficient in terms of how we plan vessels, give us greater visibility. In the past, it used to take us anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to plan vessels. There's functionality in the system that allows you to do it within 10 minutes, and it will look at all the complexities on the ship. So we've worked closely with our supplier on this. We've also sent many of our staff across to different countries in order to understand how to utilize the system better. And we've partnered with some of the shipping lines who also operate terminals as to what are those planning best practices that we could incorporate into the operation of the terminal. This essentially, as what the C's indicated, allowed us to then operate the terminal close to capacity, which is essentially 1.2 million TEUs at the Durban Container Terminal, Pier 2, and then at Pier 1, where there was a design cap of 700,000, and we have now able, through this enhancements and process and system utilization, we're seeing that now knocking on the door of 770. So those are some of the good takeaways for us. Just in terms of the automotive, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the pillars we obviously focused on here as well as also on people. It was on the incentive scheme as well for employees. Same with the planning systems and also capacity. The only one I'm going to really extract from here is that capacity in the automotive terminals is managed by dwell. We've now managed to reduce the dwell days down from 7 to 3 days on imports coming in and out of the terminal. We've also seen on exports that we've been able to reduce it from 14 days all the way down from 7 to 5 days. And this is a combination of rail and of auto carriers, but this is done with collaboration with the OEMs. We couldn't have done this without their support. On the back of this, there's intermediaries in between ourselves and the OEMs as well, service providers that has also ensured that they've taken units to what they call warehousing of dock yards, which has allowed these units to leave the terminal to keep it fluid, but it's warehoused somewhere else. And after that, it becomes a distribution hub, whether it goes to dealerships and for further fitments onto these units. This essentially has given us this leverage that we were able now to take the design capacity of the terminal of 550 to say 600,000. We are aiming for next year, we're aiming for 650,000. That is our audacious goal. It is not necessarily saying as what is due and what is not possible. That is a target we've set for ourselves, and we want to do that in an efficient and a safe manner. We do not want to damage cargo. I think the one other part that I want to mention is the other change that we are doing. Sorry, I will touch on that on the subsequent slides. Our C is indicated on the PSP. Really, the PSP is to leverage in terms of how it is that we get great efficiencies out of the current infrastructure that we have. How do we draw on private expertise in terms of partnering? But it's also in line with the core mandate of Transnet, that it is how do we also manage cost effectively? How do we also enable economic growth and supply of services to the port system? And this is also done through collaboration, but also this allows for business opportunities for the broader economy by being more efficient and utilizing the current capacity. What are we focusing on for the next 12 to 24 months? I'm not going to go through all the blocks. The presentation will be made available, but we will continue focusing on road congestion. And this is obviously with the various trucking fraternity in terms of the road carriers associations. But it's also going to take further work around rail, and as was earlier requested in terms of what about Caterham. So Caterham is a very important hub for us in terms of that we believe between the port and Caterham via support of rail is that we will support those hubs. Those hubs essentially will allow us then to bring units down from OEMs, bring it to the hub, and we will then bring it by rail into the terminal. It's a far more efficient process that we will follow. But these hubs needs to be, it requires further investment and development in those areas as well. So no, we're not quite there. It is an infancy at the small numbers at this particular point in time, but there's definitely opportunity for broadening that. Just in terms of the marine stacking space, we're working very closely with TMPA. What we have done on the marine space now is that for safeguarding of cargo, we will also be launching what we call a driver truck management system. Essentially, this will be a biometric for drivers coming into the terminals, where it is that by fingerprint, we'll be able to identify a driver who's authorized to come into the terminal. The same with vehicles accessing the terminal. And this stems from also we've had significant attempts at illegal removement of containers from the terminals. We don't know what's in the container, but there's various people that do know what's in a container, and these are valuable goods. So this is our efforts in order to ensure that we've got a safer port system. Just in terms of compliance for customers, we've also significantly worked on this with customers, where it is that we have contracted slots. Essentially, it's our promise to customers of saying is how we will berth you when you arrive in the port, how we will work you in terms of at which productivity rates, and when does the vessel depart. These are the guarantees that we've captured into contracts. And we've now managed to achieve this, achieving 80% of that. We've now seen during the past 2 weeks, we've been able to achieve 100%. And that's in context of the floods that we come out of, the strike that we've come out, and obviously a lot of work with our employees as well, which does demonstrate in terms of the willingness in order to have a better port system. Road to rail is an important element for us. We will continue driving that. And this is not to eliminate anyone in the supply chain. Rail is important, as is what trucks are important to the port system. A train can't go everywhere. However, we've got to recognize that we are working in a system that we've got to support different supply chains. The car terminal capacity, we will focus on that particular one as we do see that significant growth coming. We're essentially seeing is during the next 5 years, the car industry in terms of what they would like to do through the car terminal, we're looking at about 1 million fully built units compared to the current 550. So one can understand in terms of the growth that we need to support. So plans needs to be made now already in order to support that. I've covered this as well. Just in terms of, I think the important one here I want to make reference to is the benchmarking. We visited OEMs or car terminal operations in Germany and in Thailand. What we brought back there is that we've also identified in terms of best practice how to handle units more efficiently. What it has demonstrated is that it will allow us to move units. Well, virtually we should be able to double our throughput rates in terms of per hour handling units. If we adopt this and what we call the seamless driving service. So the current process requires 3 nodes in terms of where we discharge a unit, we take it into inspection point, we then take it again to a yard, and then we load it onto a truck. And obviously that process is reversed. By doing driver seamless, we are taking one of the nodes out, and where we can seeing is that essentially we can move units, what we're currently moving in terms of about 140 units per hour. We can do that and increase that from 280 to 300 units per hour. And because it allows us more inspection once it's so there's from the vessel to a point of rest, and that's where the inspection happens, and then it's loaded out. And similarly, when we receive it into the terminal, it gets driven straight from the stack and it's driven onto a vessel. So that is, we'll see that developments within the next 3 to 4 months. That will be in place as well in the car terminal. That is really just in by and large in terms of an update of the Port of Durban for Durban terminals. If there's any questions, thank you so much.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you very much for a great presentation. Ladies and gents, any questions? We've got one there, and we'll take that one.
Thank you, Earl. Gerald Dreyer from EXR Construction. It seems to me that the short-term solution is going to be single destination sorting of cargo going into the port and single arrival sorting of cargo going out to the port. So it can be multi-destination sorting outside of the port, which is where the support facilities like Cato Ridge Dry Port come into play. So if we look at the curve where we're on 80% capacity for the last many years since 2018 with stagnant growth, what is the plan for short-term and long-term? Because any major expansion of Durban is going to be a 5 to 10 year lead time because of your own space constraints within the current project area.
Thank you. Can we take this question?
What's the gentleman's name again? Gerald. Hi. Okay, so Gerald, 100% correct. What we've seen is, and there's really 2 levers that we can leverage off. The one is the dwell days, is what I've indicated earlier, that we are focusing on, because that really is where it is that we can increase the throughput of the terminal. Second to that is that Transnet will not be able to do it on its own. We will require support also from the OEMs, but also intermediary service providers. What we have seen is that, and with the support through associations or bodies like NAMSA, they've also, as OEMs, reached out to service provider that has created now and established hubs in and around the precinct of the car terminal. Because we've all understood and we've recognized that the port is becoming the constraint in the supply chain in order to bring units in and out of the terminal. The dwell is the dwell. However, what it is that we've done with the dwell now is that there's two things that has happened. We will have to have a more robust rail system in terms of that to evacuate units to reduce the dwell once those hubs is being set up. And OEMs has already indicated that they are willing to invest in that and also to take up that offer, because we understand in order to accommodate the growth between now and 2025 is that we're going to require that. What I must indicate is that whilst there's not sufficient car carriers, is that of the service providers and OEMs that's bringing units in, they've also now adopted what they call self-drive. So we're not dependent any longer on car carriers taking these units out. So once these units comes in within the period or free periods, what you want to call it, we see them driving it out of the terminal to areas in and around the terminal, to those warehouses. What we do find though, Gerald, is that, which is going to be of extreme importance, is that when those hubs fill up, is to keep those hubs fluid. And we've experienced that in December. So, you know, we engage daily, we engage on a monthly basis with OEMs in order to make sure, as an intermediary step until the new terminal is built, we've done the expansion, is to carry us through to 2026, 2027 to increase that, because more import units is going to come in. So that at least allows us, what we're seeing now in subdued economic conditions now is that it is actually swapped around now, that actually with the next 12 months, we can see there's more exports that will want to leave the country, which means pre-assembly becomes extremely important in terms of the dwell days. We wouldn't want vehicles in the terminal for a vessel that is not destined to collect. So sequencing is going to be the important aspect that we are now working with OEMs on. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. There was a question.
Hi, Earl. It's Graham Russell. In your long-term contract strategy you talked about, you mentioned about something about service strategy with Transnet Engineering, I presume it was TE. Could you elaborate on that, please? I'm interested in that.
Okay. Yeah, so with regards to TE, so Transnet Engineering is an engineering arm of Transnet. They focus primarily on support of engineering and maintenance services for the rail arm of us, which is TFR. What we've recognized is that we have the capability in order to also extend that same type of capability to the port system and use the type of engineering skills that we do have to support the port system. And that is for the maintenance of our cranes, our straddle carriers, but container handling or bulk handling equipment, particularly in the bulk terminals. I mean, they've built locomotives, which demonstrates the type of capability that we have in the country. So we're starting off small with them in terms of smaller components that they will support us on as we then step towards the more long-term strategy. But this will be done in support of to dovetail with the OEM long-term strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. We've got a lot of questions coming up now. Remember, we will have questions after the other presentations as well. We're running a little bit out of time. So I'm going to take these two questions and then the next time you guys on that side. Is it fine? Thank you. So Olga, you raised your hand.
Thank you. El, I would like to find out from your side with regard to the road to rail loads. How do you plan to ensure that the rail systems are actually adhered to from the private sector? Because it looks like everybody wants to take their loads to road, and they are just don't support the rail factor. One of my reasons is that when you look at some of the loads that comes to like the containers, 80% of the containers that are on the road, they are actually supposed to be on rail, and the rail system is really failing us, but we are trying to ensure that to move to rail. So what is your opinion, or how do you plan to move and get support from the road to rail.
Okay, thank you, Olga. Olga, a very, very important question that you've asked, because it's an extremely important strategic enabler for us. With the road to rail, as you've indicated, that the majority of cargoes, if you now look at the port system, it is coming on road, and you're 100% correct. What we have to just take a step back on is that we must understand, prior to the floods that has taken place, we've had a rail system that supported the terminal. Essentially, it's about 200,000 TEUs per annum that was on rail that we had. So once the rail system has been restored, we will start seeing that shift back to rail again. Our ultimate end goal is that these type of goods needs to be on rail to move it in and out of the terminal. There's room, and there's definitely a need for trucking, particular, I would say, within the 30-kilometer, 50-kilometer radius. However, from long term, as to where these goods are destined for, they're destined for the reef. So they need to get back onto rail. So rail has opened one leg up, particularly on the container side, between Durban and the reef. So we've got one line operational. The second line should be coming through as well. And then we start seeing this. Remember, we also can't do it without the trucking fraternity. So what we are seeing, as I've mentioned earlier, is the hubs is going to be the important part. We want mass evacuation out of the terminal to the hub, and then distribution can take place from there. And that will be at the convenience, obviously, at the consignee. And obviously, in terms of to ensure reliability of service.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, there are another question on chat as well. We'll get to that. But let's do the next presentation, and then we'll take questions again, because Earl, you're still going to be around for a while.
I'll be around. Now, I knew when I came up as Durban Terminals first, I knew I was going to be a while here.
Thank you, Earl. So let's give Earl a big hand for his presentation.
Thank you.
Right, so let's just quickly get set up. So, ladies and gents, we're going to have our next presenter, Mr. Kwazi Mabaso. He's the Managing Executive of Richards Bay Terminals. Thank you very much, Kwazi. There we go. Right. Just use the downstairs.
Thanks, Harry. Good morning. For a second, I saw people, getting up and leaving. I thought, okay, because I'm the next speaker, it means they are there. Yeah, my name is Kwazi Mabaso, Managing Executive for Richards Bay Terminals. So Richards Bay Terminals is it's got two terminals. You've got a multi-purpose terminal that's got a operational capacity of 8.2 million tons, and you've got a dry bulk terminal that's got an operational capacity of 21 million tons. So combined, you're looking at about 29 million tons within Richards Bay terminal. So we handle over 40 different commodities in Richards Bay. So we're running a complex system. The dry bulk terminal, normally your normal dry bulk terminal, they run probably about 2 commodities. We handle about 12 commodities. And then our multi-purpose terminal handles more than 30 different commodities. We call ourselves as a chrome, magnetite, and a Harper Pound industry terminal. And I think that is very key because our understanding is that in Richards Bay, you do have a coal terminal, which is privately owned. So as Richards Bay terminals, TPT, we are the chrome, magnetite, and Harper Pound industry terminal. Our approach in Richards Bay over the past year has been to stabilize the foundation. And the reason being is that we know that in 2021, we had fires in October in Richards Bay. So there were a lot of issues that were happening in Richards Bay. There was a lot of also staff turnaround. It's not working. It's working.
Apologies, just trying to fix what's going on there.
Okay, no, thanks, Harry. I'll blame those people that, went up and went outside. Because then the computer said, maybe this function is finished, So it started misbehaving. So as I was saying, with the approach in Richards Bay has been to stabilize the foundation, to make sure that we try and have proper building blocks for us to prepare for growth, because we want to see Richards Bay being a terminal that handles in excess of 30 to 40 million tons of cargo in Richards Bay. But for us to start having those building blocks for growth, we needed to stabilize the foundation. And that's the work that we've been doing over the past year. And it included issues like people, it included focusing on our maintenance strategy, it included on addressing pertinent issues, especially in terms of the business rules with our customers, because you should understand that if you're handling more than 40 commodities, you've got serious competing interest. Everyone wants their cargo to be handled in a certain manner. So we had to have new business rules that will enable us to improve our throughput. Last year, my colleague presented this slide. So this is just the feedback to say what has happened up until now. One of the key issues is the work that was done on the C1 conveyor system, which is really rail dependent. And we are hoping that we'll be doing a hot commission by end of this month. We also purchased a multi-purpose loader for berth 804. Berth 804 is a berth that it has been handling only wood chips. And now, because we want to improve our berth productivity, we have now started handling other break bulk commodities with the intention of using this multi-purpose loader to handle commodities like chrome. So when the wood chips vessels are not available or they're not there, we utilize the space to then start handling other commodities. There is work of us making Richards Bay terminals to have a mega chrome terminal. And this is in line with the Port Master Plan, which my colleague Johnny will be touching on later, that most of the bulk commodities that are here in Durban, they will move to Richards Bay. And we want then to have a mega chrome terminal in Richards Bay. So that work has already started with the feasibility studies. Key dates around the fire rebuild, the conveyor belts that were damage. The route that is connecting to Green Road, we anticipate that to be up and running in August 2023, the Fosco January 2024, and the AMSA rebuild April 2024. But I must say that over the past year, which is what we're really discussing on in terms of the reflection, is that the teams working together with some of our stakeholders and customers, the impact that we had as a result of fire was actually minimized because of the volumes that we're able to handle with the contingency plans that we actually put in place. So as I mentioned earlier on, that multi-purpose terminal, its capacity is at 8.2 million tons. But our latest estimate is that we're going to end this financial year sitting at 11 million tons. And that's 3 million tons above the actual capacity of the multi-purpose terminal. And one maybe will ask to say, why such a big number? It's because of, number one, the collaboration with our customers, and also us changing the operating methodology in terms of changing the normal skip operation and start using the grab box loading operation in two of our beds, which is 706 and 606, which were the beds that we dedicated solely for coal customers because of the boom that we saw over the past year, where the coal price was high and also exacerbated by the Ukraine-Russia war, which created a huge demand, where even the mines that were closed, all of a sudden they became viable because of the coal price that was favorable. And as a result, we used to handle less than 4 million tons, at most 3 million tons, really, of coal in Richards Bay TPT. But we're gonna end this year in excess of 10 million tons of coal that will be handled at the Richards Bay terminal. And the collaboration that I'm talking about, I mean, I know our CE, even L, was talking about the importance of collaboration. I think Richards Bay is a template of what can be done if we work together. So we created about 4 beds where we said it's going to be dedicated to coal, which was 801, 701, 606, and 706. And we also created business rules on how to service the guys that are already existing and also service the guys that are new, the new entrants, by using the back-of-port facilities. Again, those back-of-port facilities, they're not owned by us, they are owned by the private sector. But we created a supply chain system that is enabling the entire corridor to start functioning. In terms of our bulk terminal, which is a dry bulk terminal, it is rail dependent. So for example, magnetite, which is the commodity that we move quite a lot of it, it goes to Maputo and to Richards Bay. However, if you're having a problem on the railway line, like we've experienced even over the past week with the weather, where some of the lines experience washed away, we can't receive that cargo. So it's unlike coal, where if you can't receive it on rail, you can get it via trucks. But with magnetite, because it's come from Palaboro, you can't put it on trucks. It's not economically viable. So we lose out. And we lose out to Maputo because Maputo, they can use trucks if rail is not working. And that is why when rail is not working, we're not going to sit back and say we're going to wait. We actually work together and say, what are those challenges that you're experiencing and how we can work together. I mean, one of the key things, even the cable thefts on the North Corridor, I know that the issue of security from a rail side is being addressed. I think they're going to be having new contract in terms of security and so forth. So it's being addressed. And right now, the biggest issue, it's been this weather that has been really taking our lands away and creating a serious downtime. But from a terminal point of view, we're having a keen interest for rail to work because we have seen that as much as some of the cargo can be interchangeable can move via trucks, it's not sustainable. You know, the picture that you see there, whereby you look at coal, that 3 years ago we were handling a plus minus 500,000 tons on road. Year to date, we have already handled over 5 million tons. via road is not sustainable. And we need road and we need road. We need rail and road, but they need to work together. We can't have one side moving all the cargo and also vice versa. Now, from a terminal point of view, you know, we also lose out on efficiencies. And I think as much as we have done well in terms of volumes that have been moved, but we can do more. In terms of chrome, we can move plus minus 8 million tons, but we can't move 8 million tons on road. We have to have some split being on rail. And from an efficiency point of view at the terminal, you can also stack up because you bring in cargo via road. So you're also not optimizing your storage space within the terminal. You also have to put more equipment in terms of doing what we call backstacking. So once you have offloaded the truck, you need to backstack. So to open up more ways. So it becomes cumbersome. And those are the things that now, as the terminal, we understand that going forward, we have to look at them and say, how do we change that? Because it looks like the influx of road trucks in Richards Bay, we have seen that even our road network into R66, R35, they are not geared up for the amount of trucks that they are receiving. So there's been a lot of collaboration between TNPA, TPT, the city of Umhlathuze, to say we need to look at three things. Number one, there's something that we need to do from our side, which is the truck booking system. So getting the coal customers to be part of the GCO system so that they can be enabled to be on the booking system. Two is to create the staging areas around the terminal, the port precinct. The city of Umhlathuze have been very, I think, understanding in that aspect, whereby they've opened up some of the land parcels which are going to be used as a staging area in and around the terminal. Trucks are here to stay. Let's see how we become efficient handling them going forward, and also look at other best practices in other terminals in the world that are really handling a lot best. That's why we're gonna end with volumes that are, I mean, record breaking. But for sustainability point of view, we need to prepare. We have also designed an end state for Richards Bay. Number one, we want a semi-mechanized terminal. The skip operation, yes, we can do it with other commodities, but we can also use some of the, like your mobile ship loaders, which are mechanized operation. We also need to, on our truck bulk terminal, we need to start having your stacker reclaimers. And that's what we need to do so that we can increase the throughput of volumes that we can handle at our terminal. As I said, we want to go to an excess of 39 million tons and eventually to about 54 million tons. At this financial year, the record, I think, is 26 million tons. We're going to end at 28 million tons, which is close to the 29 million tons that we have set ourselves as a short-term target. With the initiatives that we said we're going to implement, some of it is already implemented, like the box loading operations. Within the next 2 to 3 years, we want to move to a 38 million tons terminal. And these are the things that are going to really make Richards Bay to support the South Africa Inc., but above all, to support the miners and the people that are trading with these commodities so that they can also earn in terms of revenue, but also South Africa Inc. can get serious tax benefit from it. The mining indaba, they mentioned that I think over R1 trillion production was done by the miners over the past year. So they need to be enabled by the terminals like ourselves. I'll end there. Thanks.
Thank you so much for this interesting presentation. Maybe you can remain here. I don't know where's Earl, he's still in the room. There he is. So maybe if you two gentlemen can stand at the front and we'll take, say, another 2 questions. We're running badly out of time. I know Mitchell had a question there, and maybe another burning question on this stage beside Mitchell. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So let's take these 2 questions now. and the two gentlemen can answer the questions. If you can kindly stand, Jan, can you move the camera so you can have the two gentlemen there?
Good morning. As Harry said, my name is Mitchell from the Citrus Growers Association. Good to see you, Earl and Kwazi. I was going to ask Java when he was doing the presentation, but since you put on your slide, Earl, a very big question to ask. You know, we understand the position of the South African ports, where they are at the moment and where we'd like to see into the future. I think a lot of that rests with the private participation that we are hoping is going to come into the port space relatively soon. On your slide, you mentioned there, I think on the second to last process, which I would have believed should have been one of the first processes, engagement with unions and government departments. We've recently heard in news that the unions themselves have put out that they're opposed to this sort of public-private partnership agreements, if I read it correctly. We also saw the head of the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises last week saying they're opposed to this privatization, if I'm reading correctly what was said there. So I think just to gauge, are we at a point where we're going to be able to get this participation into the port system, given the opposition, potential opposition that we're seeing on the government side as well as union side? Will we see this coming in, as we've mentioned, midway through this year, or do we see that being a major obstacle? Thank you.
Maybe we can take another question here and then we can take, and answer both questions.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'm Rich Mo and I'm from CSIR. Yeah, it looks like when you present, all your ducks are in the role. My question is simple. So what is it that you don't know that you need assistance with?
Good question for research.
I think let me take the first one from Mitchell. Mitchell, a question, obviously, I don't have an outright answer, except that I would like to confirm from a mandate perspective is that the current PSP is in its process and we will see it to its natural conclusion. So it's, I don't know of any other mandate that there is that we are not going to proceed with it. So all the work that is being done currently is still underway. We are actively still engaging with our employees, with various stakeholders regarding the PSP. And obviously our focus and anchor is still in terms of what is the intended expectation and desired outcomes of having the PSP as to why it is that we've actually followed that process. And that was for capacity utilization and creating appropriate infrastructure and for better efficiencies. So that's really the focus, and it will remain as such. Now, until such time, there's a different directive, which I'm not mandated to respond to. We're working towards that.
And maybe just to add, El, I mean, Michelle, every time there's something that is new and that has never been done before, you're bound to receive a lot of, people having different views. It's part of the process, and we just need to weather the storm as Transnet. Yeah, and I think maybe just to answer the question is that when we present here, I'm not representing just Quas. There's a multitude of people that we are representing, and some of the ideas that we are presenting here, people already had inputs on them, and I've already mentioned the issue of collaboration with the city of Umhlatuze, some of our customers and stakeholders. So what we present here is different people having already put in input. So it's not my idea or his idea, but people that we are already engaging with. And that's the board of work that we're presenting here. Yeah, we don't know everything.
There's been a question from Hug, given on card.
Earl, yeah. So we're talking about going seamless in the next 3 to 4 months. How will that increased rate per hour of units coming off a vessel impact the evacuation? And what's the port, the terminals doing to ensure evacuation keeps up with the units? Currently, we see vessels sitting outside. Vessels are working slowly, very slowly. So how do we see this all working? Thanks. Cars, sorry, cars, automotive.
Okay, thank you, William. So William, with regards to that, is that as I've indicated in my presentation, Transnet can't do it on its own. The one aspect we've acknowledged in the, further down is that we're going to require support from the OEMs itself. The carriers are bringing more units in, particularly, like I'm saying, they're bringing imports in. And like we're seeing now, we're going to see the swing coming towards exports. With the seamless, if there's not additional backup port hubs formed, it's going to be a difficult response for us in order to clear those units. And it will impact the plans in order to get to the intended 650,000 units we intend to handle. And it will also then obviously negatively impact on the growth in terms of the plans of production. So with that being said, is that we are actively, we're daily engaging, and we are also having strategic sessions with the particular NAMSA as well. We're having sessions with them. So that there's appreciation from the OEMs as to what is required further downstream. Whilst it is that we're also pairing it with rail. If rail is not going to be, we're going to struggle with the dwell in the terminal. Whilst the self-drive has really helped, we are seeing is that our intended movement per day is 2,000 units. We're seeing that we're getting between 1,700 and about 1,800 units a day. And as long as we keep that up, there's one other initiative that we are working with OEMs in as well, and that is to take units out during the evening. There isn't any appetite for moving units after, I would say, 2,200 to the morning for various factors of safety, because high-end vehicles, there's challenge for them in terms of moving that. But we are looking at initiative jointly with them in order to make that happen. Because essentially it's a dead period for us and at the roads capacity. So if we can get that to work, then I think we definitely have an opportunity to do more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we block it here? We're running out of time. Yes. Okay. Let me take this one. Please keep it short.
I'm Christian Tepe from the Minerals Council. So obviously we're concerned about the fact that rail is not working for us. We've invested some money into the security on the rail side to make sure that we decrease theft. So for us, it's a big concern that the rail is not working. The ports have been working. I mean, RBCT can do 91. You will be doing 28 million tons from an installed capacity of 29, which is good. So my question is, how are you able to handle more? Is it that you're better placed to handle the trucks, that you're increasing the coal from 4 to 10 million? And now with what is happening, once rail comes back online, are you still going to be able to handle the extra capacity? Will you keep on handling that, or will it end with that? So that's my main concern. And thank you for the good work.
Okay, no, thanks, Mr. Tefo. I think when I started my presentation, I did mention that we consider ourselves as a chrome, magnetite, and Happapand industry terminal. And the reason why I mentioned that is because the good performance, it was driven by coal. But in our strategy going forward, we're not just going to invest for coal, because coal is not for us. Coal is for RPCT. As you have rightly said, they've got an installed capacity on the quay side of 91 million tons. And on the land side, which is dependent on rail, the highest they've done was about 77 million tons. So obviously, right now, they are projecting, 50 million tons. And that means there's a plus minus 27 million tons that would have gone to RPCT, but has disappeared. But unfortunately, that 27 million tons, you can only ship 16 million tons because you are using a mode of transport that can move. I mean, for 200 wagon trains, you need about 533 trucks. So the economies of scale are actually, are tilted. So once that efficiency comes back on stream, from a rail point of view, definitely your members will go back to RPCT. Hence, we are saying we want to increase efficiencies that are going to help your chrome industries as well as magnetite. Magnetite requires your stacker reclaimer. We require more area where we can put the machine and also to have more stockpile area. On the chrome side, especially on the ferrochrome, we're using a skip operation. So hence then the importance of looking at the mobile conveyor in the near future, because you can't use a grab operation that you're using for coal, because they don't want their cargo to be degraded within the multiple handling. So we are geared up to increase the volumes, even if coal disappears. And also remember, you also have this size coal that can only be handled via a multi-purpose terminal, that cannot be handled via RBCT. So we also have invested on the lines of the 704 to be able to offload the trains that are bringing coal that can only be handled at the MPT because of the nature, it's the size coal that can only be handled there. Yeah. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's give these two gentlemen a big hand. Ladies and gents, a wise man once said, it's a good thing to give your body some rest. So that very wise man is telling you now it's time to take a break, right? So let's see, it's at 11:15. So it's about a 9 minutes break, a quick break, and then we've got another 3 exciting presentations. So 9 minutes break, and I'll chase you back in. Thank you very much. Salim, you looking for me? Salim, if you want to talk to me, I think you're muted.
Hi, can you hear me, Harry?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, let me just put on the camera. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it, but just tell me. It's on. Can you see Harry?
No. Bottom left, there's an option stop video. Maybe you can switch on your video there.
That's where I am. It says video. Oh, what the hell? Original video mother on my video. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Tell me you can see it. No, why is it not coming up?
There we go, Salim. Now we can see you.
Okay. You want me to share the screen? Yes, sec. Just tell me when you can see it, Eddie.
Just slide view, Salim, then it should be fine.
Yeah, I'm pushing in. Is it in slide view now?
Okay, now go to at the top of your screen, display settings, and you can change, swap presenter.
Just
So
I can't see where the
top left of your
display
screen. Yeah, there we
settings.
go. That's it, swap.
Okay.
There we go, excellent. Salim, keep it as it is. We'll be with you in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks, Eddie.
Thanks, Salim. Be with you in a few seconds. Right, ladies and gents, let's continue. All right, let's continue. Those that's not in the room, they can join us just now. It's always difficult to stop people from networking. I think that slogan, give that man a bell, that's what I need, that little bell. Okay, ladies and gents, we need to start, otherwise we're going to be much too late today for the terminal tour. Our next presenter, Mr. Salim Peterson, he's representing the Eastern Cape Terminals today. He's Executive Manager of the Eastern Region Result Management Office. He's going to do a presentation on the Eastern Cape Terminals. After him, we will have Andiswa Dlanga from Western Cape Terminals. After her, we will have Johnny Makaseng, who's going to talk about the Port Master Plan. Now, Salim is already sharing his screen here, as you can see. Salim, thank you. So we're handing over to you. Thank you for sharing some time with us, and he's going to talk about the Eastern Cape Terminals. Thank you, Salim.
Thank you, and good morning to colleagues, to customers, and industry captains. I'm representing, obviously, the Eastern Cape, as I mentioned. I'm sitting in for our ME, Mondisa Vavi. I'll just go through the schedule of commodities that we obviously move through the Eastern Cape, mainly being automotive, containers, manganese, as well as agri-grain, which is in East London. The overview just on capacity in totality in Eastern Cape, our TEU capacity combined would give us about 1.9 million TEU in the Eastern Cape. From an automotive perspective, we got capacity of about 450K. And then obviously, if we're looking at manganese, give and take, we're close to 11 million tons. That's incorporating some of the back of port and volume throughput. Our current break bulk bulk terminal operation, which then can facilitate 5 million TEU. So obviously, we'll look at the Eastern Cape performance, the reflection on the past, and obviously a glimpse into the future. And currently, if we just look at Port Elizabeth, from a Port Elizabeth perspective, we have a number of commodities trading in the Port Elizabeth precinct. This just depicts the capacity within the terminal. So from a container perspective, we obviously, from our budget that we have, and being it's very seasonal within the Eastern Cape for PE, our budget, we actually 44% above budget. For our ship working hour, prior year, we are sitting at 23. This year, we're actually sitting at 25.5, which has an increase of 11%, but our target is actually at 36 ship working hour. From a truck turnaround time perspective, we've got a 25-minute turnaround time perspective. We're sitting at 24.7, at just 10% above, which is about 2.4 minutes, which obviously can be reduced with a lot more focus. When we're looking at our availability of our straddles, because this is a straddle operation, our demand availability is at 95%, which is excellent, given that there are old straddles and there is a fleet replacement schedule for that. Within the automotive perspective, when we look at the auto side of the business, from a volume perspective, we're 14% up. From a ship working hour, and this is going to be a bit controversial because we'll obviously talk about the mix. We've got, our target was 81, we're sitting at 67, but we also manage our UPH, units per hour. But our obviously ship working hour has reduced significantly, given the fact that within the terminal, we're currently moving a lot more high and heavies and static cargo. Therefore, it actually reduces your ship working sort of time if you look at it. When you look at the UPH, which is the units per hour, our current end sort of envisaged picture should be 250 cars per hour. We're currently operating at 186 units. We did break the 200 mark quite a number of months in concession. But currently, if you look at our prior year on a UPH was 170, and we're actually sitting at 186. So there's a 10% increase in that. Our current dwell time, and which is quite important because that depicts our capacity, we have increased our dwell time by 7%, which is not ideal, but obviously this is related to the mixing cargo and some of the transshipment that's obviously creating the impact. When we look at our PE bulk perspective, on a bulk perspective on manganese currently we're trending 15% below our target. And the reason for that is obviously there's a number of issues relating to the arrival of trains and stockpile on the ground. So that also impacts our tons per hour. Currently, our norm is looking at a target of 900. We're operating at 826, and prior year we operated at 804. So there was like a 2% increase, but that also impacts a number of items when it comes to our tons per hour. It's related to a lot regarding to our stacking capability and ability on cargo on ground. So we've actually put in place a new rule where we're trying to implement that 80% of the cargo for a particular vessel needs to be on ground, because that then also facilitates a better operating model and efficiency within. Within the multi-purpose on the break bulk is actually growing at 36%, which then obviously if you take the balance between our bulk and break bulk, obviously it equates to what we should be on our targets. And that's obviously looking at 36%. The break bulk is also impacted because it's back of port integrating into the terminal, and then obviously it's about ring fencing your vehicles to get that efficiency target, which we put at about 340. We're currently trending at 316 tons. Comparatively, we have reduced our operational ability in that area, purely given the fact that there needs to be a lot more focus on us ensuring that the trucks that are ring fenced within that are then sort of operating. If we then go to the next terminal, being our container terminal, being Ngqura Container Terminal, within the container perspective of NCT, and that's abbreviated for Ngqura, we're actually down 11% on volumes. But if we look at our ship working hour from prior year to this year, on prior year we were sitting at 36 ship working hour. Currently we're sitting at 42, which then sees a 17% increase from prior year to this year. But to our target, which is being at 48, we're actually 13% down. But there is a significant progressive leap towards us achieving that. We then also look at our GCH. Last year we actually was sitting at 17, and this year we actually trending between 18 and 19. That gives us about a 6% to 7% increase. From a truck turnaround perspective, we've got it at 35. We're on par on 35. Then we look at one of the the main equipment within the terminal, being your RTG availability and demand. And currently we've got a target of 95%, and we're sitting at 99%. If that's okay. Then we move on to East London. At East London, obviously there's automotive, there's agri, which we've resuscitated. If you look at and containers. So East London from a container perspective, it's doing phenomenally well in the containers, and it's also contributed to the MBSA volume that's being produced. So we're sitting at a positive 69% on growth on containers. If we're looking at our current GCH, remember we use ship's gear there, so it's currently sitting at target is at 13. We're operating at 14. There's a 7% growth in our operational efficiency. And then truck turnaround time, we've got a 17-minute timeline that we've got, and we've actually turning trucks around at looking at 12.5 minutes on that. On the automotive side, if you're looking at automotive, we challenged with the automotive. We actually trending negatively at 4%, and this is obviously due to some of the part shortages from chips, etc., that wasn't available for production. Therefore, it impacted the sale volumes within that particular precinct as well. So we will sort of try and catch up, but try and narrow that gap from a 4% to actually either break even on it or just surpass it. Just from a ship working hour perspective, we have also increased our ship working hour, which was 81. East London doesn't do much static or high and heavy cargo, therefore the mix is straight new vehicles. They're sitting at 95 versus a target of 81. Then just on the new operating model as well, the current target for East London and all the terminals sitting at 250. We've broke the current 200 mark. They're trending at an average of 193 units per hour. The current challenge we face with East London is, as we spoke about this being a throughput facility, and our commercial contracts would obviously look at reduction in dwell days. Currently, we're still sitting at 15, where we should be sitting at 11. This has now impacted the terminal phenomenally from a space constraint perspective. Then we've looked at sort of the reflection into our current past, where we looked at our CTOC compliance perspective, and this is an ideal measure. We've actually looked at us ensuring that we get a threshold of 80 across our region. And as you could see, the average CTOC for NCT year to date is sitting at 73. But just to mention, the prior year, if you look at where we were sitting at, is actually at 53%. So there is a phenomenal improvement in performance at 23% on CTOC compliance. For PECT, as we know, it's predominantly used during the reefer season, and it's very seasonal. But within our CTOC there, we're actually looking at us currently sitting at a 91% performance rate. When we look at just a reflection on then the reefers, because that's one of our main sort of areas within our business, just looking at the 2022 season, we know that we are limited to access into the Middle East due to vessel emissions. We've also with the new EU coal treatment regulation, and we also saw a low volume in September due to voluntary suspension on the black spots. And just in talking to that, I think we've also ended our season a month earlier in the Eastern Cape from the citrus reefer perspective. What we did see is that given the fact that there was shortage due to load shedding, there were shortages of looking at gensets, and also the ability to hire gensets had a huge impact on our cost regime, because obviously based on the demand, they actually had a very high cost related to renting it. Then obviously that also looked at reducing on productivity on vessels due to high stack occupancy, and that's a general, once your stacks are quite high in occupancy, it then also creates an impact on efficiency. There's a multiplier effect. In saying that, in preparation for 2023, what we do want to do is some of the things talking to how do we sort of maximize our operational assets and utilization to ensure efficiency. I think when we look at the 2022 season, what has transpired is that we actually, I'm not too sure if you guys can still hear me because it says some disruption. Harry, am I still audible?
All good on our side, Salim, all good.
Okay, thanks for that. So if we look at it, we noticed that the general trend is that the trucker starts coming in at 11, from 11 o'clock and stops about 4 o'clock with the citrus season, especially at PECT. So one of our recommendations is obviously to engage industry and look at opening up, having earlier access to those boxes between 6 and 1800. That will then facilitate maximum land resources, and then obviously look at, night shift, looking at closing it. The availability of plug points within the PECT area is still at 932. There's no gensets planned for hire, but it's an optional given that if volumes warrant it. For NCT, we're currently sitting at 1,652 plug points. And we are actually planning to bring in an additional 360 plug points with a genset for the period from May to September. This will obviously increase NCT's plug points to close to 2,000 plug points. Just in saying that, obviously the reefer plug points are then also connected to a genset, there's 162 in case during load shedding. Then just to mention, I know we did have a phenomenal growth within that, an average in the Eastern Cape region across the business about 15% within the citrus. Therefore, obviously, we want to really applaud the citrus industry for the support they've given us and the growth that we've got. Then just when we start reflecting on some of the operational improvements from the container sector, which then obviously was implemented at NCT from some of the World Bank initiatives. We looked at improving CTOC, which I spoke to, which was at 22%. These are sort of, if you look at the first 4 items, it looks at housekeeping, improving housekeeping measures, pre-planning within that, and also ensuring that the line services to complete a 24-hour prior to the next vessel berthing. So that facilitated a better CTOC compliance, which then obviously facilitated improvement in operational efficiency. The other one then talked to ship working hour, which we then obviously increased by almost 14%. And it also looked at the way we sequence the bays, how we pool our equipment, as well as improving shift changeover disciplines within the operation. The next item was looking about our sustainability and reliability on the equipment. So there's a number of regimens that we followed where we looked at, we're currently doing our spreader refurbishments of 9. We currently gone through that. We've done 4 already. And to date, we're looking obviously at the STS, look at the energy chain replacement, looking at the trailers, and also obviously the RTG, looking at our RTG upgrades. That also looked at us reducing, the key input for that is obviously looking at reducing the breakdowns in the terminal and the hours lost. The other area of importance for us was actually re-looking at our dwell times and how do we manage that, because that obviously brought in a lot of inefficiencies within the operation. And the areas we looked at is how do we eliminate some of the long stays within, reviewed the customer contracts and enforced tariffs, also resurrection of customer matrix, as well as giving a cap on container line services. Then when we just look at talking to our current PSP engagements or activities within the Eastern Cape, we know that NCT has gone out on the PSP. We're currently waiting. Obviously, there's adjudication that's happening. And obviously those results will come out. We would announce that mid 2023. The other area that we're obviously looking at is talking to the manganese inmet rebuild facility, that we're looking at creating a 16 million ton facility at the back of port, just outside of the port, that will then obviously have a new entrance into NCT Finger Jetty area. We currently went out on inmet PSP RFQ in September, and now currently within this month and going forward, we're looking at the funding mechanisms of the inmet facility, and we're hoping that construction will start in Q4 in 2023, and obviously opening of the terminal in Q2 2027. In line with that, we're then obviously looking at our operating model, and within this, it's talking to more of the automotive. So I'm specifically talking to the sector, which then talk to, I think Al spoke to, being a throughput facility. How do we increase efficiency? How do we reduce our dwell time? And within that, we can, on the left-hand corner, you'd see the sort of PECT, the Shell Malan key drive that we have, and how we would extend it, meaning we actually will encroach our footprint into the container terminal, which then will give us an additional 3,000 ground slots, which is equivalent to almost selling up the terminal to 12,500. In incorporating that, we'd also bring in an additional berth. So you'd have 2 berths versus the 1 berth within the operation. That will facilitate this, because the end state of the business should be sitting at 450 units in total from a capacity perspective, but that obviously aligns itself with our new business operating model that talks to 3 days of import and 5 days of export, and obviously transshipment looking at 10 to a max, and trying to reduce that. Within the enablers of this, we obviously got a GCOS system that facilitates this, and this operating system, we've now enhanced it, that we look at a berth sort of a slot system. We're investigating that. This is also to ensure there's a balance of trade between your import and export, and maybe your sales between Asia and Europe that will facilitate this. And this is across the sort of region, across not just our region, but nationally, that we look at how we facilitate this. Thank you. Then just looking at our readiness and what we're concentrating, we look at sort of the bulk terminals, which is BOT, meaning that obviously that's one of our big operations and one of our terminals that operate. As I said, we're looking at 5 million tons. But the old lady, and we call her the old lady, is that she's obviously under tremendous strain and pressure given the age of the equipment. But we're obviously looking at areas on how do we sort of reduce the mean time to repair, the mean time to failure. And as you can see, the trend lines are moving in the right direction. The focus here is obviously ensuring, Jabu spoke about it earlier about talking about bringing our critical processes, looking at process flows and how we operate. It's also about the other one is looking at the KPIs that can measure them exactly within that, as well as fault finding. I think fault finding within any breakdown is quite critical within, and it's a unique skill that we have, and which we're obviously ensuring that we embed it within all our technical team. So within that, to ensure that there's uptime and sustainable running of the tippler, but not to mention that the tippler is an ecosystem with conveyor belts, communication on various areas. So there's a number of elements that needs to be done. We're currently looking at a plant refurbishment, which would start most probably in April. And then obviously what's critical is capital spares, ensure that we have maintenance spares available so that obviously our mean time to repair is actually shortened within the process. So what we do want to look at, and what's quite enabling for higher operational efficiencies from our side, is ensuring that from a stacking perspective, that all these sort of regiments that we're following through will improve our current availability of the tippler. So given the current operational methodology and the mechanisms put in place, we're then looking at increasing it in on average about 14% availability. This obviously would, from a stacking perspective, this will obviously facilitate a better availability on our shipping side, which must probably increase it by 4%. These are numbers given to me by our technical team, because I've had them committed to give us numbers so that we can obviously have, as I spoke about, the KPIs, measures, and ensure that we get it. So overall improve downtime, we're looking at actually increasing it, reducing by 20%. So when we look at the plant refurbishment as well, this obviously will give us an expanded plant life so that coincides with our build program on NMET till 2027. Then we've looked at the other areas from a technical perspective on what we look to ensure that we facilitate a good sustainability and uptime with our equipment. There's capital projects and OPEX projects. And as you can see, these things would talk to, for example, at NCT, talking to the RTGs, the STSs, and the hauler fleet. What we're looking for an impact here is to ensure that we have a higher availability and reliability within our current operational fleet. And this also facilitates better operational efficiencies, and then we can obviously deliver on customer satisfaction. So obviously year on year, we're looking at indications of a 10% from where we are between our RTGs and STSs. And then also on our haulers, we're currently sitting at 90%. We're actually going to be at 95% reliability indicator. For PECT, we have the two cranes, STS cranes, which is obviously the lever and the knoll. The lever is obviously going to a mid-life refurbishment, whereas the knoll is quite an old crane, and we have some challenges there, especially with sourcing parts. So obviously within our CSM supply chain team, we're ensuring that those things are actually put in place, so therefore we could have our cranes up and running. Just to emphasize the point, the improvement overall availability, once we're done with those various activities within, should bring us up to 85% and improve the reliability by 20%. All these activities will be done and be ready within the reefer season starting in May. So therefore that's all taken care of. Then if you look at East London, obviously we've got quite a number of new straddles that came in, and they're all quite new. It's just making sure that the technical team reviews the spares availability to ensure that the uptime is taken care of, the cleanliness of the straddles, and servicing to ensure that the sensors are all working. And in the other areas, obviously from the grain elevator and looking at the operations as well as quality inspection on maintenance. The next area that we looked at is obviously, as the Eastern Cape, we plagued with something called weather, and it's obviously talking to wind, fog, and vessel movement.
Salim, five minutes, Salim. Salim, okay. 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So if we look at what we're mitigating from what we've got, the mooring master from there's 9 suction pads that are working, and it can take an LOA of 260. Within our RTGs, we have anti-sway. So during high-speed winds, we can still operate on the land side, and obviously at 80 k's where we cut off. If I look at some of the sort of challenges that we have, we've got issues around water, fuel cost, electricity, and weather. Within water, currently, Tabeja area is obviously seen in July, we'll be in full drought. We're currently consuming 100 million liters. There was a notification sent out that they will reduce the reduction in liters by 30%. We also need to obviously show mechanisms on how we reduce water consumption. But obviously, given what we have, we looked at boreholes, the application for boreholes, as well as tanks to harvest. From a fuel perspective, we all understand the cost and the impact to us and the impact to the business. Electricity, we have the same thing, sort of cross between fuel and electricity based on the demand for gensets, etc. And we obviously will be cut off at stage 6, which has an impact to us. So obviously looking at weather, I spoke about weather and the areas. If I go back and look at what we're concentrating on, obviously operational efficiencies, ensure that we have customer experience, improve customer experience through our operational efficiencies. How do we enable operational efficiency and productivity? We've identified areas through looking at our reliability of equipment, adherence to maintenance schedules, as well as lead time for parts, as well as training and upskilling our employees. We also looked at refining the processes through continuous improvement and efficiencies that we made mention. There's also, we're going to be introducing in this year the truck booking system. Within 3 months' time, we'll start off with PECT East London and last with NCT. In saying that, what have we done? As a business, we're quite agile. We sensed where we're going wrong. We're responding to what we need to do, and we're trying to adapt as a business to facilitate and ensure that the customer has the most exceptional experience in us delivering what we need to do. In looking at that, we've also, employees quite important. We've looked at how do we create super users, which we've got a planning program for, which we've partnered with one of the shipping lines. We looked at our technicians on trade ends, what we need to do, and upskill them, as well as our OLEs on multi-skilling them. Just to finish off, as Jabu indicated, we've now resuscitated the East London grain elevator, as well as we're going to be doing the first export vessel of white maize after 10 years in the coming few weeks, which is about a week or so. So colleagues, I think, and industry and captains of industry, thank you very much. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, Salim. Thank you very much for a great presentation. Salim, will you take 1 or 2 questions?
Okay.
Right, let's see. Any question? No burning questions. All right, so we can continue. Kathy, you've got a question. Just a moment to get to you. Let me just switch this thing on, sorry.
Salim, thank you for that presentation. It was excellent. Quick one. I saw under your electricity outages, you were speaking about generators. Is there any talk of solar, some photovoltaic solar system implementation?
Look, from a solar perspective, if you're talking just in general, I think there's investigations looking into solar power. But remember, within solar, you also need, they talk to an area that you can have enough solar power that you want to generate, but the key in that is about the storage and the ability to store the power that you generate, or either put it back into the grid. There is areas that we would look at under the Green sort of Act and from an environmental perspective. So our current team is looking at those areas, not just solar, but also wind. And they're also looking at how do we sort of generate electricity either from the undercurrent that we currently have plagued with at NCT, which could be an opportunity to generate a positivity from the lemons we've been thrown. Thanks.
Thank you, Salim. Here's another question from Mitchell. Salim, can you stop your screen sharing on your side?
I'm just trying to stop it.
Okay, don't worry, let's continue.
Thank you, Salim. It's very encouraging to see your focus on the citrus industry from the port there, from a regional perspective. Just one question, you mentioned the impact of stage 6 load shedding. Can you just highlight a little bit more detail around what impact you're referring to and how it affects the operations? As we know, stage 6 is becoming very problematic and potentially problematic as we go into our citrus season. Thank you.
Just on that, we obviously it's on a municipality level. So the stage 6, once we load shedded, the water side operation has come to a standstill, and that's the challenge that we have. So there are gen sets that we are putting in, but I'm not too sure the ability to facilitate the full mechanism. But remember, we also just get cut down, so that has a huge impact on us, and we'll have to obviously have those discussions, further engagements with the municipality. I think what they also want to see from us is a number of plans that we can put in place to reduce the current consumption that will then facilitate that.
Thank you, Salim. Seems to me we've got the one, Timothy, want to make a comment?
Yeah, colleagues, it's going to be a recurring question in terms of the load shedding. I just want to give you assurance. In terms of the container terminals, we have not yet experienced load shedding up to stage 6 at any of the terminals. Cape Town, as an example, I think 2 years ago had an issue, but that was due to citywide. So otherwise, everything, Mitchell, has been satisfactory to now. The question is what happens after this? And like all organizations, we do have a committee that is investigating this, and plans are being put in place now. Gensets in the terminals that will supply the powers, and larger generators for the other commodities. For example, Saldanha, as an example. A lot of these areas are very energy intensive, so we do need to do procurement, we do need to do a lot more investigation. But just to give you a level of assurance in terms of specifically the container sector, I think we'll be okay for the interim up to stage 6 and thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Ladies and let's give Salim a good hand. Thank you, Salim, for your good perspective.
Thank you.
Right, let me quickly get our program on again. All right, let's continue on this one. Ladies and gents, our next presenter then is Andeswat Langa. She's the managing executive for the Western Cape Terminals. Andiswa, thank you for sharing your time with us. Just putting it up. Just want to make sure it's working. There we go. There we go. It should work this time. Okay, it's page down and page up. Or next slide, previous slide. Yeah, that sometimes jumps. It was better maybe page down, page up.
Okay. Good morning. It's still a morning. So to the ladies, we've been outnumbered the whole morning and also intimidated the whole morning. It was only men presenting this morning. So I came to close on your behalf. My name is Andy Swadlanga. I'm the managing executive responsible for the Western Cape terminals. Western Cape terminals are made up of 4 terminals, 2 in Saldanha and 2 in Cape Town. My presentation today will focus on the 4 points. 1, Western Cape terminals, and then I'll reflect on the past year's performance or the things that we focused on, as well as the investment for city equipment, and then I'll give you the glimpse into the future, touching on all 4 terminals. I'm also going to be very short and sweet, saving the time from all the other 3 managing executives that were before me. Okay, I'm going to start with the 2 terminals in Saldanha. And I am not trying to brag, but I just want to educate. I saw there's quite a number of youngsters around here. They probably don't even know where is Saldanha. It's somewhere in South Africa and very beautiful. So the Port of Saldanha, if I look at the iron ore terminal, we are the largest iron ore export facility in Africa. We are also the only dedicated iron ore terminal in South Africa. We are the deepest and the largest natural port in the Southern Africa. We do the dual loading whenever we load our vessels. We've got 2 berths, but we dual load 1 vessel at a time. We are very good in turning around a vessel in less than 24 hours. You'll never see us skipping vessels at Anchorage. Those who know us, they know us for good things. We also have a reverse osmosis in Saldanha, which produces 2.4 megaliters of desalinated water per day. This is drinkable water, by the way. So we use this water to do the dust suppression around our terminal. As you would know, that the commodity that we handle is quite dusty. We are very careful not to harm the environment where we operate, which is the communities around Saldanha. The picture below here is actually the view of the terminal itself. We have, I've already, the infrastructure of the iron ore terminal. On our stockyard, we can stockpile up to 4,500 million tons of iron ore. We also have 2 berths. Like I said, this is the deepest port in the Southern Africa. We also have 4 stacker reclaimers. This is for reclaiming the cargo from the T-plus when we offload the trains. And we also stockpile with those stacker reclaimers. We've got 2 T-plus, T-plus 1 and T-plus 2. We've got a very long conveyor belt that feeds from the T-plus all the way to the ship loaders. We also have 2 ship loaders. That is the total infrastructure that we have. On the rail side of the terminal, we can offload or we can handle up to 60 million tons per annum. And then on the shipping side, where we export, we can export up to 58 million tons. The variance between the two numbers is as a result of the configuration of the terminal itself. When you now bring all the resources together, it then amounts to the 58 million tons. However, we do have air emissions license to export 60 million tons via the port of Saldanha. On the other side of the port, which is the multi-purpose side, where we handle core commodity at this point in time, or the biggest commodity that we handle is manganese. We have a key length of about 870 meters. We've got a draft max of 13.5 to 14 meters, a rail line split into 3, connecting from our Salco yard on the rail side. These 2 terminals are actually handling the longest trains in the world. On the manganese side, we run 375 wagon length of trains that are coming to Saldanha. We split them into 3, or 125s. The manganese and iron ore, we split them into 3 as well at 116 rates, wagons. We have 2 warehouses in Saldanha where we store manganese. The core commodities that we handle in Saldanha is manganese, iron ore, as well as other minerals that are harbor bound. Saldanha MPT, which is a multi-purpose terminal, has a full capacity of 8.2 million tons per annum. I'll move to the Cape Town terminals. We've got the famous Cape Town container terminal called City. It has a capacity of 1 million TEUs per annum. We have 3 beds that are operational. We've got a 1.1 kilometer key length with 15.5 meters of draft, meaning we can handle bigger vessels from that terminal as well. The commodities that are dominating in the Cape Town container terminal is mainly your deciduous fruits. I don't want to be politically incorrect since CGA is in the house, and citrus. So those are the commodities that we handle in the Cape Town container terminal. We ride under the Table Mountain. It's good and bad when I talk about weather, but that's the beautiful Cape Town container terminal. Also in Cape Town, we have the Cape Town multi-purpose terminal. The multi-purpose terminal also handles different types of commodities, and mainly containers, as well as the break bulk commodities. We've got a lot of agri products that we are handling via the multi-purpose terminal. It also has a key length of 1,565 meters. We have 4 beds that we are operating. The drafts are a little bit shallow that side, from 9.6 to 12.1 meters. This is the view of the of the multi-purpose terminal with the 4 beds that we are operating there. 2 beds, we dedicate them to the container business, which is your F&G. And then the other beds, we dedicate them to break bulk commodities, manganese, wheat, and other commodities that we handle there. What has been our focus in this current financial year from the last time we spoke? I think if I start with the iron ore terminal, what are the things that we've been doing to ensure that we improve on our operational efficiencies? If you look at the iron ore terminal, I've already touched on the view that we handle the longest train in the world, which is being offloaded in our terminals, in our terminal in Saldanha. We also handle vessels that are ranging from 170,000 tons to the biggest caller of 310,000 tons. Our loading rate in Saldanha, and it has been consistent throughout the year. It is when we dual load, we're looking at more than 8,000 tons per hour. That is what we do. Hence, I was bragging about not having vessels at anchorage and all the time, because we are using this system. It is a semi-automated terminal with no redundancy, and you will understand when I mean no redundancy. You can't bring road into the terminal. You 100% rely on trains. If trains don't come, and whatever tonnage that you lose or whatever minute that you lose, it's lost for good. You will not be able to catch up with that. We have, since the inception of this terminal in 1976, exported around 1.3 billion of iron ore from the port of Saldanha. I spoke about the equipment that we have. If I reflect on the equipment, and we have focused a lot on the equipment, following our maintenance regimes and all of that, I think one of the things that I can gladly share with you, in this new financial year that will be starting in April on Transnet Books, we will be completing, if I'll focus on the calendar year 2023, we will be completing our midlife refurbishment. We took our equipment for the midlife refurbishment. Each piece of equipment has since gained 10 years more, meaning all the stacker reclaimers that we worked on, all the ship loaders that we worked on, they have now gained additional 10 years, which is the lifespan of the equipment that we use. We focused a lot on our shutdowns. So we go on shutdown, we take the entire plant around September every year. We focus a lot on that, and we will be continuing to do that into the new year so that we keep our plant healthy. And we're ensuring that maintenance happens on daily basis, on weekly basis. All maintenance windows are being adhered to. You would know that we are in the process of completing the project that has been underway, which is the TPT 3. It is now on our critical path, and we are pushing for TPT 3. TPT 3 is mainly the replacement of our TPT 1, which has since met its own useful life already. We would need to then replace TPT 1 with TPT 3. Saldanha Iron Ore Terminal, for the longest time, we've been kept at 60 million tons. That is the license that we have, which allows us to export only 60 million tons out of the country. We know that there's more reserves out there, particularly in the Northern Cape of iron ore. However, we are unable to capture all of those volumes at this point in time. We are restricted by the license that we have. One of the things that we are busy with, in fact, I am now on the final stages of this variation application that we're busy with, the air emissions license. We're increasing our license from 60 million tons to 76 million tons. But that doesn't mean that we will immediately start exporting iron ore. It would need for us to make some few investments around the equipment that we need, additional beds and so forth. I'll touch on that later on. So we are now waiting for the outcome of our application. We have executed all the projects that were related to this AEL application with our authorities, which is the West Coast District Municipality in Saldanha. I'll move to the Saldanha multi-purpose terminal. We also have focused a lot on our operational efficiencies out of this terminal. It is a manual terminal. If you know our multi-purpose terminals, most of them are manual. They are not as sophisticated as the iron ore terminal. So here we're turning around 125 wagons at a time in less than 12 hours, which is the design time. We are turning them around, we're averaging at around 10 hours, which is time gained and given back to the rail, and they can be able to turn around their wagons back to the mines, and we do more volumes on that one. This terminal has got 4 beds as well. All beds are used for different commodities that we handle there. We also have made a procurement more than 2 years ago of 2 mobile ship loaders, which are helping us to load quicker. We have seen a lot of benefits using the mobile ship loaders to load our iron ore, which is handled as a result of the midlife refurbishment happening on the iron ore terminal. We have since moved some volumes to be handled at multi-purpose terminal of iron ore so that we get closer to our budgeted numbers and contracted numbers with our customers. As such, we have seen a lot of benefits using the mobile ship loaders. So we have reduced the vessel turnaround times from 5 days to 3 days using the mobile ship loaders. We've been having a lot of complaints and noise coming from the industry regarding our LOAs in this terminal. I think it's not unique to Saldanha, but in all our port terminals, we're beginning to see the market changing. The sizes of vessels that are coming are no longer the 190, 180s, 170s in length. We're now beginning to see longer vessels from 200 meters plus. We have conducted a study in Saldanha multi-purpose terminal working with our sister company, TNPA. And we piloted for 6 months. I'm glad to announce that to date, we're now good to handle 2 200-meter vessels and 2 190 vessels at the port of Saldanha, and our customers can now start bringing bigger vessels. And there's a benefit on having the bigger vessels, because literally you begin to score more volumes if you are having a 200-meter vessel, about 5,000 tons per vessel with the 200-meter vessels. We have improved our planning and upgraded our terminal weigh bridges to ensure that everything is run smoothly. We conducted a lot of studies using our CI teams to ensure that we lean our processes. We used to have our break bulk vessels dwelling on our beds for 12 days. To date in this financial year, I'm glad to announce that we no longer have any vessel that dwells for more than 8 days in Saldanha MPT. We turn all vessels in 8 days. When we use the mobile ship loaders, it's even worse. 3 days the vessel is in and out of Saldanha. This terminal also doesn't keep any vessel at Anchorage. So if I talk about the expansion, you would know that Transnet segment strategy is focusing on a dual strategy when it comes to manganese. Manganese is expected to be on the Gqeberha line as well as on the Saldanha line. We saw it fit that we also look at expanding our manganese volumes via the Saldanha route. We projecting to end at around 5.2 million tons in this current financial year, which is above what was budgeted. And we're looking at growing manganese to 8 million tons via the Saldanha route. We are busy with also the application here. We are already advanced with the application via the DFFE, which is currently underway. We expect their feedback to conclude this application so that we can handle more manganese via the port of Saldanha. Come to Cape Town. Cape Town, if shipping lines are in the room, let's not talk about Sea Talk today. We will start next year. And the reason for that, it's a catch-22 situation, Peter, why I won't talk about Sea Talk today. So the noise when we started beginning of the financial year, we had a lot of focus on, and this what can we start implementing 3-berth operation. However, we had contracted to work a 2-berth operation, but I heeded the call and implemented the 3-berth operation. The 3-berth operation is contrary to what was contracted to ensure that we meet those Sea Talks and so forth. So that is why I'm saying let's not talk about it today, but as we go into the new financial year, we'll start talking about that. From July last year, we started implementing the 3-berth operation at the port, the port of Cape Town, City. We began to see so much benefits, volumes increased, reduction on turnaround time of vessels and vessel changeovers, they began to improve. We implemented the truck booking system. I know we're not all fond of it, but we must find a way of using the truck booking system. If I have the truckers in the room, let's use the truck booking system. We are evolving, we're getting more into the 4IR. There's a reason why we need to use the truck booking system. The truck booking system, just like when you catch your flight, you don't just pitch at the port and say, I'm now taking flight survey to Cape Town. You must book and have a ticket. At the ports as well, in our ports, we are also implementing the same process. When you come to fetch your box, you must have a ticket that allows you to get into the port. And this is not only happening during the day, it happens around the clock. I'm saying this, Mitch, because the uptake at night is still at 9% and keeps on going up and down. It must be at 50% above, just like the daylight. Okay, I don't know what has happened to my presentation. At the land side activities, we also extended them to 24 hours. Like I said, the gate in and out process is now around the clock. That is what we have implemented. We began to see some benefits out of that. I don't want to shy away from the view and the reality that Cape Town or the Western Cape, we really experience weather delays. I don't want to talk about this Jan and Feb. They were the worst months of my life. We experience a lot of weather delays related to wind. However, we continue to work with the industry, a lot of collaboration all through the year, preparing for all different seasons. We've been collaborating with our growers, with our customers and everybody to ensure that we work around these things so that when we recover from the weather delays, we work as a collective and we recover quickly. We also have procured and deployed the 4 new RTGs, which are anti-sway, which you use them better. They are able to withstand the windy times. And this is the route that we're going to be following going forward. And we are deploying these RTGs strategically around the terminal to ensure that we mitigate against the windy times. And also to highlight that Transnet port terminals, we're also exploring an opportunity of implementing a remote working. We have already started with our feasibility studies. We are advancing on the process to implement this one as well to mitigate against the wind issues. One of the things that we have mastered and championed in this current financial year, we have ensured that we put the long-term spare parts contracts for our equipment for quicker turnaround when there's breakdowns and maintenance of the equipment. What becomes more critical, I know I'm talking to some people in the room, it is the lead times on when you deliver these spares to us. If you are supplying me. So it is very important that you understand that I have a contract with a certain customer. And if I don't get my spares on time, I'm unable to deliver on the equipment that I'm supposed to be deploying to ensure that we run our operations smoothly. But we're beginning to find one another around those issues. So we now have long-term spare contracts. I think my colleagues before me were touching on the partnerships. You will understand the benefits of having those long-term partnerships as well. One of the things that we did, we saw benchmarked with the previous season for the deciduous fruits. We saw that we ran out of plug points in the terminal. This year, we managed to demolish a whole stacking area and put additional reefer plug points of 200, which makes the terminal to sit at 3,200 plug points for all the reefers that we handle, with more than enough capacity. During rainy seasons and when we experience underwater currents on the seaside, we end up with our vessels ranging, meaning we cannot be able to load them because they are moving up and down. TNPA, they have installed, I'm glad to announce that TNPA, they've installed on 2 beds, 2 pairs of short tension units, which are able now to hold the vessels during when we experience the water issues when the vessels are ranging. This is working very well for us at this point in time. It will be tested more when we get into the winter season, because in the Western Cape, it rains more in the winter season. We have increased the number of our ship-to-shore cranes. We are a 7-gang operation where we operate 7 ship-to-shore cranes at a time. We have increased from 8 ship-to-shore cranes to 9, which is now creating redundancy. I'll touch when I talk about the equipment that one of the reasons why we ended up with the 9th crane, it is because this plant, particularly the ship-to-shore cranes, they're now going to be going for a midlife refurbishment starting in this calendar year. Okay, thank you. I'm almost done. The City, you know that we're in the process of expanding the terminal from 1 million ton TEUs on the land side to match the water side to 1.4. That is what we are busy with. That project is also underway. Cape Town multipurpose terminal. I think I'm not going to say much here. We now have very reliable equipment that we are using in this terminal. Replacement of our equipment. I know I've got a lot of customers who are more interested on what we're doing about the equipment that we are using at CTCT. This current financial year, I'm glad to announce that we are done with the refurbishment of all the spreaders for the ship-to-shore cranes. We have received the 9th crane. Like I said, there's 2 short tension units are already in place. The new financial year 23-24, I have highlighted that we're already starting with the midlife refurbishment of the STS cranes. We also have received already the We're replacing the 47 trailers and haulers. On the trailers, our TE colleagues have manufactured these trailers. We took delivery of 20 trailers already, delivered to us, and 4 will be replacing 4 straddles, replacing the haulers. I think the RFP has closed already for this. We're also replacing our empty handlers and replacing the reach stackers. Going into 2024, which we have accelerated the process of the delivery of the new RTGs. We're busy with that procurement event. We will be completing our midlife refurbishment of STS and start taking delivery of the new RTGs. We're expecting 27 of them. We have already touched on the partnership with our OEMs. What's the future for Cape Town? I've touched on the increase of our stacking area, increasing of our railway lines to bring to improve. To bring more cargo from road to rail. We'll be increasing our rail on the Cape Town. Cape Town, you would know that it's not really big on rail, but more on road. We would like to have more rail coming into Cape Town. Saldanha, I've already spoken about the 76 million ton license that we have applied for. These are the things that would need to, the investments that we need to make for us to get to the 76 million tons. We will not move from 60 to 67. One of the things that we're focusing on at this point in time is the volume validation with our customers. Do we still have enough reserves to give us more iron ore beyond the 60 million tons? Or this will be, and there will be no return on this investment. These are the things that we need to do to invest to get to that. And they don't come cheap, one of which we would need to build a total new berth. We would need to increase our stockyards and buy more equipment. Manganese, same as well. I think on manganese, we're more comfortable to say we still have more manganese in the country. One of the things that we are currently fast tracking at this point in time is the construction of the third warehouse in line with the condition EAI that we have gotten approval for. And this will also inform our growth into the 8 million tons. I think I'll take questions. Thank you so much.
Andisa, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Can we take questions after the next presentation so that we can catch up a little with time? Thank you very much. Ladies and gents, what a beautiful presentation and well prepared. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gents, just want to get this thing set up again here. The catering people are very unhappy with us because they already prepared their lunch and everything. So looking at our program, we now, last not least, as they say, presentation, and that is Mr. Johnny Mokaseng. He's the Program Director, Port of Durban, Transnet National Ports Authority. He's going to talk about the Port Master Plan. Thank you, Johnny. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. No, thanks. I realize that we've got lunch shortly. I'll try to be very quick as well. As Harry has indicated, my name is Johnny Mokaseng. I'm the Program Director coming from Transnet National Ports Authority. Our office is called the KZN or KwaZulu-Natal Logistic Hub. It basically looks after the 2 master plans within the Eastern region, the Port of Durban and also the Port of Richards Bay. So I'll look after the master plan for the Port of Durban, and I've got a colleague of mine who also looks after the Port of Richards Bay. So for today, I'll only concentrate on the Port of Durban master plan. All right, this is just a disclaimer. I'll quickly pass on that just purely for information, and I'm gonna touch, as I've indicated, on the Port master plan. Before that, I'll quickly touch on the Transnet segment strategy and so forth. All right, with regard to the Transnet segment strategy, As Transnet, basically, we have adopted a segment strategy, and there's about 9 segments within that strategy. And relating to the Port of Durban and Richards Bay, we will be concentrating mainly on the auto, container, and also the liquid bulk. And in Richards Bay, obviously, there we want to our focus is on the dry bulk and LNG. So that basically stems from the Transnet strategy. And out of the Transnet strategy, this is where the port master plan or the KZN port master plan was basically born. And our main aim, we will be addressing, as I've indicated, within the Port of Durban, we want to increase our container capacity. And by doing so, we will be positioning the Port of Durban as a container hub, and then also a premier automotive terminal. And in doing so, we will ensure that we sustain, the liquid bulk within the island view, and the Port of Richards Bay will be positioned as a dry bulk hub, and also still accommodating the LNG. With what we will be doing within the 2 ports, which is the Port of Durban and Richards Bay, and for us to be able to transform the Port of Durban into a container hub, and we will need to ensure that we relocate the SA Navy. I think that has actually been in the news recently, where we're looking at relocating SA Navy, where they are currently housed in the Salisbury Island, and we're looking at relocating them to Richards Bay, to the 2 islands in there, the Naval and the Pelican Islands. So in future, that's what we're currently working on together with the SA Navy, to ensure that they are actually being relocated to those 2 islands. And that will give way for the container hub that we want to create in the Port of Durban. And obviously, the master plan, I think there's some issues that we basically looking at addressing. One, from the freight transport system is on the shipping. We know very well that there's actually being a huge the evolution of container vessels. They've been growing over years. And currently within the Port of Durban, we have actually seen a lot of these big vessels coming into the port. But the Port of Durban itself wasn't actually designed for those big vessels. Now, this is where the master plan comes into play. We will be addressing that issue. You will see that in future, we will be able to accommodate bigger vessels than what we currently accommodating. And then again, we will seek to address 2 other issues on the rail with regard to the master plan itself. This is where we need Transnet Freight Rail, TFR, which is our sister company as well, to come on board. And as we speak, purely because we've come up with the master plan, they are working on the rail master plan to ensure that it will enable whatever that we're trying to do within the Port of Durban. And same thing that it will be happening in the Port of Richards Bay. We are very much aware of the transport issues, the trucks issues in the Port of Richards Bay. So, and even on the road side as well, we will be addressing, I'll speak to that in terms of some of the initiative that we will be bringing on board in the Port of Durban to address the issues of that we see on the roads. Now, what you see here is the current Port of Durban. The red line is basically the port limit. And what we're looking at doing is increasing the port limit by bringing 2 sites, the Cas for Africa and the Ambrose Park, and that's just purely extending the port limit. Now, with what we're going to do in terms of the port master plan, there's about 5 initiatives that we basically have either been completed, but again, being done by others, or we are in partnership with other entities. And then the balance of that, which is about 14 of them, we will be doing as a TMPA. The first one is the cruise terminal. We know that was constructed, so that's behind us. TPT has spoken to this about the PSP. where they're looking at bringing the private sector partner to work with them in increasing their efficiencies. And then the third one, number C, is the proposed Durban Bay waterfront. And again, this, I think there is a press release that we issued together between ourselves and the city of eThekwini late last night, I think. Yeah, even this morning, I've seen it is on the press as well, where we basically talking about this proposed Durban Bay waterfront. It will basically be we're looking at the waterfront itself is along the Margaret Mqadi Avenue, or the people that have been old in Durban, they know it as the Victoria Embankment. So that whole within that Margaret Mqadi or Victoria Embankment, we're looking at creating this the waterfront in there. In future, there will be about probably 1 or 2 4 or 5-star hotels in there, the museums, a science exhibition, amongst others as well, and things that will be housed in there. But that initiative or development as well will be assisting us in terms of the point precinct. I don't know if this pointer works. This is the point precinct. So whatever that we will be doing there, as I'll be indicating to you shortly, it will be assisting us in terms of the freight corridor. As part of that, we're looking at doing a subsurface terrain that will basically be assisting in terms of the trucks that will be coming in this point precinct, and even the number of trains that will be coming in this precinct as well. So that subsurface terrain, or basically we're looking at having a tunnel running underneath, and all this the waterfront will be on the above ground. So the next one that we're looking at doing is the second access road within the container terminal. We currently have one access to the container or even the liquid bulk area in Island View. So we're looking at creating a second access into the port. And again, it's a development that we're doing in partnership with eThekwini, where that road basically will be coming from the port itself, and then leading towards the N2 and N3, going into Gauteng, N2 going further on the north or south. And then the last one is the container storage within Pier 2. Just purely when that lease comes to an end, we will be creating an additional storage capacity within the current Pier 2. Now, what we will be doing as TMPA together with TPT, who's the terminal operator there. Currently, we've got the auto terminal being in this area where I'm pointing at. So the current point auto terminal, we've got the auto and the MPT being handled in that area. So we're looking at moving the autos and moving them into this area highlighted in yellow. The current capacity for the auto is around 520,000 FBUs, and in future we're looking at increasing that capacity to close to 1 million FBUs annually. And then the second one, again, as I've indicated from on the roadside, this Bayhead Road coming into the port on the container and liquid bulk area. We're looking at increasing the capacity of that road. We know currently, due to the floods that we had to create another bypass road there to deal with that. But we're currently working, engineering the increasing capacity of the Bayhead and the Langebed Road leading towards the terminal itself. And then the third one is the proposed point container terminal. Once we have basically moved the auto onto this new area, we will have this container terminal, which we call it the point container terminal, with the capacity of 1.8 million TEUs. On the shipping side, as I've indicated, we're getting attracting larger vessels in future. We're looking at probably attracting or the design vessel will be between 18,000 TEU to 24,000 TEU. We know 24,000 TEU is a very large vessel, but I think anything from 18,000 we will be able to accommodate that very easily. And then the fourth one on the Maidenoff area, we're looking at currently working on the feasibility studies, increasing the capacity of that channel, where we will be deepening it and slightly widening as well, so that we can accommodate some of the bigger vessels coming into the Maidenoff precinct. And then the fifth one is the entrance channel. Entrance channel, we basically deepened it and widened it around 2010. But with what we're trying to do with the current master plan, we're looking at deepening it further and again widening it in terms of just the navigational channel, so that one is able to accommodate these bigger vessels that I'm referring to. And then number 6, at Pier 2 at DCT, we will be deepening the North Quay, deepening that to what we currently, the draft is currently 12.8. We want to take it down to 16.5 meters. And then number 7, around the Bayhead precinct, we're looking at bringing a new multi-purpose terminal. The point container terminal will be displacing what the current MPT operation. So we're creating a new capacity within the Bayhead area. And then again, with the Navy being moved to Richards Bay, they are currently being housed in this island here. It's called the Salisbury Island. When the base goes to Richards Bay, the Navy will continue having a presence within the Port of Durban in the form of a satellite station. So that satellite station will just be serving the Navy for the vessels that are sailing along the coast, where basically they just come in to take their bunkers and then crew change and so forth, taking their provisions. So that's what that satellite station will be for. And then if you look there, now if the Navy basically have been moved out of there, we will be able to create a container terminal in that area. So that's what we call a Pier 1 phase 1. It's going to have 2 phases. So this will be the phase 1 of Pier 1. And then also we're looking at creating within the Bayhead area. We currently have a small dry dock in this area that is operational, but we're looking at creating a new and bigger dry dock within the Bayhead area. There is an RFI that we basically went out recently relating to that, where we're looking at accommodating vessels that are currently calling and even future ones that will be calling into the port. We want to be able to service and the repair thereof has to be done within the Port of Durban. And then, as you can see, eventually that bay that was there between Pier 1 and Pier 2, eventually we will infill that and ensure that we create a new big container terminal. And this is how the configuration is going to look like in future. It's going to have a new Pier 2 in this area, and then the new Pier 1 will be in this area. And then I'll get to the new phase 2 of Pier 1 shortly. We currently have this Island View 9 berth here, Island View 9, which is currently, I think, being used by Netcos. With the new container terminal that we're going to develop within that Island View site, we have to ensure we need to reconstruct a new Island View berth 1 there, just to ensure that it, we don't lose that capacity. So that's what we will be doing. Eventually, this is how the container terminal, Durban container terminal, is going to look like. 2 new terminals, this being the Pier 2, and then here being a Pier 1. And then Pier 2 will give us a capacity of 4.4, and then the Pier 1, 3.6 million TEUs. And then obviously we need a turning basin purely because of the larger vessels, container vessels that we will be bringing within the Island View site as well. And even on the Island View side, the tankers, purely because of the refined fuel that where we will be seeing a lot of refined fuel coming into the port, we need to again ensure that we can deepen that the Island View channel. And we need, from navigational point of view, we need a turning basin to be able to turn these vessels coming in and out of the port. Yes, there is a turning basin in this area, but most of these vessels, if one were to turn them there, it will basically sterilize the port. And we want to ensure that the port doesn't get to be sterilized. One can easily bring in and again ensure that some of the vessels gets to go out with ease. That's basically, and then eventually with the container terminal, the capacity that we're looking at bringing in the port of Durban will come to around 11.4 million TEUs. If we bring in another maiden of container terminal, which will give us 1.6 million TEUs in that area. With the maiden of channel being deepened and widened, one will be able to accommodate those vessels with a draft of around 14.5 in that area. And overall point, DCT in this area and even on this side as well, one should be able to accommodate those big vessels, 18,000 TEU, with the exception of what we will be doing initially in DCT Pier 2, where one will be able to accommodate vessels of 9,200 TEU. And as I've indicated, eventually we'll have a capacity of within the port of Durban, where we currently have a capacity of 2.9 million TEUs. We will be jumping everything all the way to 11.4 million TEUs. And again, everything's not going to be done overnight. Things will be done responsibly over time. And this is just an aggressive timeline that I'm just showing here. Everything that we will be doing is very much dependent on probably three things. Main one, the funding. We need funding to be able to undertake what we're looking at doing. And secondly, we need the private sector on board. The PSP, our strategy in terms of the segment strategy, even the master plans themselves, they require the participation of the private sector. And then thirdly, your normal legislative permits and licenses that one requires, we need to ensure that they are accommodated to be able to do what we want to do. And then again, from the back of port point of view, I know TPT have spoken to that, that we require to ensure that the port of Durban becomes a throughput, to address road congestion and things like, road to rail, ensuring that, the current, we move commodities from the roads to rail. So those are some of the things that we're looking at doing. And this is just an illustrative layout in terms of where we are as the port. We're looking at the Cato Ridge on the east, and then the Dube Hub on the north, and the logistic park, which is the old airport site. It is called the Durban Logistic Park. It is being managed by Transnet Property. And again, we're looking at seeing it is going to be a logistic park where containers, automotive cluster, and so forth will actually be handled in that area. I think with that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnny. This was well prepared and very illustrative. We really appreciate it. And this one, I don't know if you want to come to the front, perhaps. Ladies and gents, are the questions. Now, remember, this is on YouTube, so you will be able afterwards to have a look on YouTube and also email questions to us, and we'll make sure it's been answered, but we will allow time now also for questions. Jan, you can get the camera on those two. You can you stand it? We can get the camera nicely on you guys. Okay, let's take this. All right, where shall we start? That's right there, then we'll get to Alistair. Right.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. I'm Dave Watts from South African Association of Freight Forwarders for Johnny. The master plan is something we've been looking at now for probably 18 months, 2 years. And this question's been asked and really hasn't been answered either. Since 2008, we have had no growth at all in TEUs through the Port of Durban. In 2008, we were doing about 2.7, 2.8, and that's what we're doing now. Where, I have an expletive to add to that, does TMPA think we are going to increase, I think, up to 2040 to 11.5 million TEUs? I think industry generally, those guys I've spoken to, just have no idea where that's coming from. And we've asked where your calculations are that say this is where we could get, where GDP growth is going to be, where employment is going to be, where industrial action is going to be, where growth of the middle class will be, because those are the people who will be buying the stuff. 11.5 million, well, frankly, I think generally across industry, we don't believe it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Let's take another question here.
Thank you, Mr. Mogoseng. It's Gerald Dreyer here again. What is the potential for privatization of some of those container berths? You mentioned that you're looking for funding. So would you be open to PPPs in the port itself?
Thank you for that question. Let's answer this and then we'll go to Alistair.
Yeah. Thanks. With regard to the volume, there is a demand. When we basically crafted this, the master plan, we invited some international aspects in terms of looking at the demand. So there is that kind of a demand. Obviously, within the 30-year period, it goes to up to 8.8 million TEUs. That one, again, it takes into account what you've just indicated, the economic growth within South Africa and again around the world. So we're not doing things in isolation. There is that demand. We're looking at within the 30-year period, around 8.3 million TEUs. And again, if you'll recall, initially, and that's why TMK bought the old airport site, there's always a thought of creating capacity. But in this case, we're looking at maximizing the land that we have within the Port of Durban. Initially, if you recall, we were going to create the DDOP, or that's where we were going to, was going to be utilized for increasing the container capacity. So the demand has always been there, but again, like I indicated, it's not something that's going to come overnight. It's going to be done progressively, and that demand, like I just indicated now, is over a 30-year period. Thanks. And then from and again, as I've indicated, what we're going to do here will require the private sector to come on board in terms of the PSPs. So those are some of the things that we will be doing. Probably you'll see in future, we will be going out on some of the PSP, those container development that we're referring to. Yeah, so we very much welcome the private sector, and as everybody knows, Transnet currently, our balance sheet is not that healthy. We really need the assistance of the private sector to come on board. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Alistair and then Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I address the first question to the lady from Cape Town? You've said you want 70 million tons of iron ore in Saldanha Bay. The current railway from Sishen down to Saldanha is a single line with 20 passing loops. It runs at the current moment approximately 9 trains each way a day, and it is full. If you want to get to 70 million, what is Transnet going to do to address the issue of capacity on the railway line? And then secondly, to the gentleman from Durban, if you're going to build a container terminal at the point, why not build your tunnel straight under the harbour and straight into the current container terminal so that the 2 roads you're planning can take that traffic away from the city of Durban? Stuffing the city full of your trucks is not right.
Okay, Alistair, let's take one here from Mitchell, and I think there's one. Okay.
Thanks, Harry. Mitchell from the Citrus Grows again. Just for my colleagues that are in the fruit industry watching, a burning question internally was, what is the plan for the Cape Town Container Terminal? And you answered it basically to 2026 in terms of fleet replacement. The question is, what happens in the interim towards that period, given the challenges in Cape Town at the moment? The second question is also the refurbishment of the cranes. How many cranes will go out simultaneously, and what is the duration of those cranes? I think it'll be about the 7 that will be refurbished. What sort of timelines are we looking at that? And then maybe a third question is, will we get to a point of increasing from 7 gangs to maybe 8 or 9 gangs in the future? Thanks, Andy.
Okay, let me first take the question around the railway line. I did mention that getting the license doesn't immediately mean that we are able to start exporting above the 60 million tons. So the project is an integrated project. We have all Transnet ODs. Rail is part of those discussions. And we are very clear that we would need to upgrade the railway line as well. So there are plans in place, but most importantly, we would want to first get a clear validation, which we're going to be meeting with we have met with some of the mining houses to understand their growth in the production on different mines. So if the production suggests that the investment that which we were trying to make will make sense for the country, will make sense for Transnet, we're going ahead with those upgrades. So we're not only going to be buying equipment for TPT, TFR, which is the Transnet Freight Rail, will also need to do the upgrade on the railway line to increase capacity beyond the 60 million tons.
Actually haven't had confirmation that the 70 million tons per annum.
I said we're running the volume validation on the other side. We're running 2 processes at once. And then Mitch, you asked about what was the first one? The short-term plan. I think I touched on getting the long-term contracts for spares that we need, because one of the things that made us not to perform at the level that we're supposed to be performing at, it's because we did not have enough equipment. Now with the contracts that we have in place, we're able to bring back more equipment and maintain it thereof. Sometimes we were maintaining with not having enough parts that we need to maintain the equipment. So the contracts that we have put in place with quicker lead times, spares available in our stores, that is going to help us in the short term to ensure that we have the plant that is available at all times. Secondly, the midlife refurbishment is going to be staggered. We're not taking the entire equipment. And in fact, at all given times, how I want to run it, because we are busy with the project plan at this point in time, which will be presented to you as the industry, we will be taking a machine at a time so that we still maintain the 7 gang. Going beyond the 7 gang, the expansion that we're busy with needs to support that as well, because we don't want to have all the cranes moving. You know about how you do the stowage when you're loading a vessel. Sometimes moving all of them at once can be a risk to the business. At this point in time, we're still maintaining at 7 gang, but exploring beyond that. Did I answer all your questions?
Okay, thanks. I think the master plan is basically addressing the issues that you're raising in terms of the road, the trucks that are on the road, staffing up the city roads. And again, the development that that I mentioned, which is the Devon Bay waterfront, is there to address exactly that. All that volume of coming out of the Point Precinct, as I've indicated, what we currently working with eThekwini, the city of eThekwini, we're looking at having a subsurface terrain where basically all the heavies, the roads and even the rail will be moving underneath the tunnel. I think from engineering point of view, an engineering solution can always be found in exactly what you mentioned earlier on, to say, why can't we have a tunnel running across? It's an engineering solution. And anything, obviously, everything just dependent on the funds. But that's what we're currently working with together with eThekwini to ensure that we alleviate traffic congestion within the Point Precinct. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to cut it here. Let's give a good answer then. Transnet is talking to us and we really appreciate that. Those guys, I couldn't take all the questions, but please pop me emails of your questions and we'll make sure that we get the questions addressed to the people or directly with these people. Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a very important thing we have to do before we break for lunch, and that is the lucky draws. So I'm going to, this a bit quickly, this plastic thing, quickly put in your business card. If you haven't got a business card, you can remove the paper from the plastic of this thing. You can drop it in there. And we're going to do 2 draws quickly. So let's quickly do this. Oh, yes. And we're saying goodbye now to our online guests, the Zoom people and the YouTube people. Thank you very much for joining. We're looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much.